Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, is my co-host Tom. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hello, friends. How are you?
Tonight we are going to be talking about the old world, specifically about the Tomb Kings. I just realized I have the wrong image up. It's supposed to be this image, but either way,
Womp,
that's
womp,
still
womp.
fine. That's fine. It was the same thing. It was just a different image of it. So yes, we're going to be talking about Tomb Kings in the old world. My personal favorite army, my largest army I own in the old world, and possibly in any game ever. And a very fun army. So we're going to kind of go over it. This is something Tom has enjoyed at various points in the past as well, even into AOS. Tom, I remember some of the most angry you've ever gotten on Twitter, and just huge. I was trying to board an airplane at the same time for work, and I'm stressed here because I'm trying to keep my co-host from flipping out on the GW design team because he's losing his mind in a public internet setting.
Yeah, it was great. It was good times. Good times.
Sure,
Blacklisted still to this day. It's great.
sure. Well, once you burn a bridge, it's hard to rebuild it. It takes a while.
Yeah, yeah, you know.
A day to
7
burn,
years
a
later.
lifetime to rebuild. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, 8 years later, indeed.
Okay. At any rate, but of course, first the news.
Yeah, we do have Rumor Engine. Yeah, yeah.
We do. I hate
Yeah.
it. It's gross. I don't like it. It's bugs in some kind of hive. All right. So I assume it's a Nurgle thing. It's disgusting.
I mean, maybe it might be a Nurgle thing. Like it could be something else, though, right?
I don't know. It's just gross. I literally looked at it and was like, "That's gross. I don't want to look at it anymore."
Really.
That's it.
So you
Yeah.
just like blew right by it.
Yep. You're welcome to
Okay.
guess. I am not. I am abstaining. It is a disgusting, weird little thing, and I don't
Yeah,
like it.
it looks like flies, but that also looks like a hive, which is really weird. As mentioned by Hades, it could be a Sylvaneth thing, and I'm
Sure.
actually inclined to think it's a Sylvaneth thing because of the shape of bugs, and we don't see bees really anywhere else. Um, you don't normally have, and as Cygnus pointed out, you don't normally have leaves with Nurgle things. Nurgle things is normally like dead and decaying. There's not
Sure.
life.
Absolutely. Could be
So
Sylvaneth as well. Completely agreed.
yeah, I'm gonna call Sylvaneth. That's where I'm gonna come down here.
Fair enough. Cool. Let's look at anything else in the world. What's next?
This weekend is the pre-order for both the FEC full order as well as the new Dawnbringers Book 4, which will bring us a bunch of death, whatever they're called. Um, you know what I'm saying?
Regiments of Renown. There you
There
go.
we go. Yeah, lots of death. Regiments
I figured
of
you'd
Renown,
get
and
there. Yes.
yeah, I'll get there eventually.
But yes, we've got the Mad King Rises. So we've got finally the release of all the rest of the FEC stuff, as well as single kits for some of the stuff that was in the larger book, like the Morbeg Knights and the Executioner
Yep.
and the Crypt Guard and things like that. We got the little preview rules for some of the Regiment of Renown rules. Obviously, we're not gonna they're there. You're welcome to look at them as per usual. I'm not gonna really talk about them because I don't I don't think it's worth reviewing rules outside of the context of like all of them. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I mean, what this tells me, like, is that we are like I am a firm believer that we are on a fast track to um the new edition. Like this
sure.
feels like a new edition thing. I suspect that like because we got each of the Mortarks with their representative stuff, like it makes me just wonder if truly like allies are a dead thing of the past and we're just going to move towards regiments of renown in the future.
Yes, I certainly think that is correct. Like, if you want my guess, my
Yeah.
pure, honestly, kind of hopium guess is that outside of a very few specific situations where you're allowed to pick from other armies for extremely strong thematic reasons. So like cities having Stormcast, or
Yeah.
some of the like some of the chaos armies intermingling in some ways, right?
Yep.
Where you
Yep.
can
Yep.
bring
Yep.
in kind of the the iron wall, as it were, or whatever, or vice versa. And those should be in very like controlled ways. The entire ally system should just be killed. It's just nonsense. Because either it's never taken because it's pointless, or it's always taken because it's broken and it shows up in way too many lists. Like the narrative player smoke screen that gets thrown up around this of like, but what about the narrative person who just wants to do this and this? Okay, well, there's plenty of already rules in place to restrict the choices you make. And if you want to play full narrative, you don't have to pay attention to literally any of those. You can ignore anything you want, right? And I'm normally pretty reticent on these kinds of like balance steps because I do think they'll often make the game worse. But in this case, I'm completely with it. I think it adds a level of complexity. It's a weird barrier for new players. I don't think anything you should ever be taking that the best choice you can make should be from outside your book, unless it's like clearly labeled in the book, like you may take a unit of Stormcast that represents, the Stormcast auxiliary that is within this city, right? It's there to help out. Like, fine. If cities has that as a special rule, I'm okay with it, and it makes sense to me, and it's cool, right? But there, it's been baked in, built in, part of the thing, right? They could even go tighter than that and say like you can take this unit or something like that, right? And not be like, oh, this unit's for some reason all the auxiliaries are dragons or whatever the most busted unit of the moment is, right? So that's it.
No, I agree with that, and I think that that's probably our trajectory. Based on the evidence that we have, I think that that's probably where we're headed.
Yeah, exactly. And straight up I'm with Mike here, who says, I absolutely hate seeing any Khorne army with a wizard ally. Agreed. This is exactly the thing I'm talking about. Just as likely as it is to quote unquote help the narrative, it's likely to just bust the narrative. Right?
Yep.
And I like absolutely. It ends up creating like, yes, thank you. Stonehorn says it's supposed to give variety, but it ends up creating conformity. I agree. It's one of the few things I don't like about list construction in the old world, just to tie it to tonight, is I don't like the ally and mercenary and all that stuff choices because I don't want to think about any of that crap. The only part of that has any value to me is you can take things from literally your own Expandopedia armies, which is fine. That I'm okay with. Like, okay, you're not playing the Mortuary Cult, but you can have a unit of Venerable Ushapti. They just count as in this category. Fine. Yeah, I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah,
that's still in the same army.
It's funny that you bring that up because, like, I was thinking about the Royal whatever one that has the Tomb Guard on Chariot.
Yeah, Tomb Guard.
And I was like, man, I want Tomb Guard Chariots just in my normal army. Like, I don't want the extra stupid rules or whatever. And like that's encouraging because I thought I had to be the stupid thing in order to get the thing that I wanted. And so I'm glad that is not the case.
Nope, it's not. Which is that I love. Not against that. Yeah. Not against being able to put that in your army. I just don't want like and even though they've got like, oh, it's you can take allies, but they're suspicious. Like, okay, how about we just don't? Anyways, like Ben says the tournament I'm doing next month will be banning allies and mercs. Yeah, that's fine. I would write it as any allies and mercs outside of your own faction or army, basically. Sure. Like then I would support it because I do think you should be able to take like an Arch Necrotect or Venerable Ushapti or Tomb King Chariots Tomb Guard Chariots or whatever, right? Like, yeah, that's cool. That's just cool stuff. So like if it's one of your units, fine. If it's not, get it out of here. Okay. Again, other than very specific situations where it like should very specifically be there because that's Warhammer. At any rate. Okay.
Excuse me.
What's next?
Other news. We have so Golden Demon details. So those were announced. That's exciting.
Exciting and late. They got announced 57 days before or something like that, maybe less. Before the actual Golden Demon, so I hope you weren't working on something that is now wrong. That they clarified a bunch of these rules. I watched the Culture of Pain episode, the Call to Pain episode around this, and they're all very nice, very British gentlemen. I'm gonna say what they didn't say, which is it's ridiculous to wait this long to publish this. It's unprofessional and it's not showing any respect for artists that spend literal hundreds of hours detailing incredible work on your company's miniatures that you delay to this level. It's a joke to start a Golden Demon entry of any significant like quality that has a chance of winning at this point in time. That's almost suicidal unless you're one of the like best artists in the world. Okay? And to put out something this late and pretend like it's not a huge time investment is disrespectful.
Could they be doing it to try to limit the number of pieces that each artist is submitting?
No.
Okay.
No. I just think they don't care.
Okay.
That's what I think. Because if they did, they would act differently. It's that simple. Yeah, action speaks volumes.
I'm not gonna contest that.
The other notable thing is that, and like, you know, they were all very kind and gave like the positive and the negative, and I respect Henry and Andy and Matt and Rich a great deal. They're all amazing guys. And but they're too kind. They're too British. They need to be called out for this bad behavior. Period. End of story. Especially when they make like tangible changes. There's also silly stuff around like the age of young bloods and who can enter. There was changes around like whether or not you can use a sculpt that someone else sculpted, but you didn't. Like these things did change at the last minute. They also added an old world category, so to tie in again with the show tonight, and could even be bothered to put up a picture of an old world miniature. Just a picture of the thing. You couldn't just dig back to any previous thing on your website, just snipping tool that right out. It couldn't do it. It's too much trouble.
It's too dangerous.
Yeah. So, you know, at any rate, I look forward to an Adepticon where I'm not entering Golden Demon and couldn't care less about my, like, it's nice not to have any things. What I will be there for is rooting and cheering for my friends who are entering and absolutely and fully supporting them in their endeavor to bring home a trophy. So I hope those who are entering do well. But for me, no, it's a hard pass from now on out. I've seen too many repeated times where they clearly don't take this seriously. And so I don't feel the need to either.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Okay. So that's, but yeah, good stuff, guys. I get the statement "better late than never" has never been more true. All right. Cool. What's next?
Or just never.
Yeah, just
Dawnbringer's story. 13 or 18 or so. Skaven.
Yeah, I don't have a picture for this one, but yes.
Yeah. So Mexu Skaven.
Yeah, boy.
The end is nigh.
Look, I don't normally talk about the Dawnbringer stories they publish on the side, but obviously I was going to talk about this one. There's like 18 stories in. I'm finally deigning to mention these, right? So these are all like the interstitials from things happening around the world, right? Mm-hmm. And basically this is just like a little side story about, first of all, it's almost incomprehensible because it's told from sort of the perspective, like the first person narration of a Skaven engineer. So it's just basically incomprehensible because
it is the definition of unreliable. Yep. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's just narrating openly and talking to his assistant. Yeah. So like it's like half the words are just repeats and weird words and it's talking about imaginary tech suit and just crazy crap. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the long and short of it is he's upset because he got embarrassed by a fellow rival engineer. So he builds a gun that can literally destroy people's souls. He builds a soul gun. Like it uses warp energy to explode your soul.
Yeah, that checks out.
So he goes over with his little assistant to attack the other guy, the one who embarrassed him, and he shoots the gun into the dude's lab. And the dude comes out and he's like, haha, you didn't think I'd know that you'd be coming after me? I built a mech suit that absorbs warp energy. So you didn't get me. And in fact, I've got guns on this thing. And so he goes to shoot the dude and he goes to reload and shoot the other guy again. And then a Vermin Lord shows up. And the Vermin Lord is like, all right, enough of this. Cut it out. The funny thing was the engineer's little assistant, his little acolyte, just dies on the
Mhm.
spot when he sees the Vermin Lord, which is very funny. Um, and so the Vermin Lord's, all right, enough of this. We need both of you. And they're like, what for? And he's like, for some great work, something like that, right? He's like, we're gonna put your, but what they're implying is what the Vermin Lord implies is we want to put your ideas together.
Right.
So like, we got a mech suit over here, we got a soul killing gun over here, peanut butter, chocolate. Let's put these two together and get rocking and rolling. Okay.
You have my attention.
Yeah. So like, let's go. Look, welcome to this brief story time with Vince during the news, but I really hope that was actually a preview of what we're getting in like a 4.0 Skaven relaunch. Yes, and not just some silly side story. Like if I get mech suit Skaven with soul killing guns, like man,
go on.
This is what we're here for, baby. This is what I've been waiting for. I will forgive you for that horrible 2.75 no effort book you put out as my last book, because if you were putting all the work into this, great. So, okay.
Classic.
There we go.
Classic.
That's it. That's all.
Yeah, it's good. It's exciting that they are giving glimpses, even narratively, for stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about other games as well, or other tangential products, we had the rules for the FEC and Warcry drop in a PDF, and I don't know if you saw this, but the PDF is actually like all the Death Armies, not just
yeah.
And I was looking at it, and I was like, "Why not play some Warcry?" You know, like I've been painting and am still painting. This will be glimpse of hobby time for Havoc this weekend, or for Wars this weekend. Holy Wars, and I've been spending some time with FEC, so I could do some Warcry maybe.
Sure. Let me just state here. Mike Cathcart said, as long as you don't get your hopes too high, Vince. I want to be very clear with everyone. My hopes are unreasonably high. They are sky high. They are a satellite orbiting this planet right now. You can't get higher, okay? Before the concept of high loses all meaning, okay? Cheech and Chong have got nothing on the height of my expectations, okay? I am through the roof. And frankly, the only reasonable end of this is utter disappointment. But it does not matter. Until that time, I will be excited and holding out at just an obscene amount of hopium. I will be that Elmo meme where he's got like some fruit and then a big pile of like, things we shouldn't say on YouTube, I suppose, because it'll be bad. I'm going straight into that. That's all I'm saying. Okay. So there you go. That's how high my hopes are.
Classy.
Yes. Actually, when Vince's hopes come crashing down, it'll be an extinction level event. Correct. My hopes falling to Earth will be the meteor that ends, like, kills the dinosaurs. Yes. Absolutely. Okay. So, I could only be disappointed, and I welcome it. Let's go. All right.
Yeah, it looks fine.
Yeah, sure. Cool stuff. I always like when they put out these kind of free rules and stuff like that. It's good. Make it easy for people. It's very nice.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else in the news?
Nope. That's it for our news.
Dougie Fresh said, isn't there some Chaos Dwarf rumor? Not that I'm aware of. I mean, there's been a general rumor floating around that they're going to, at some point during 4.0 have a release. Not
meaningfully. There's a not meaningful Chaos Dwarf rumor that we have no actual evidence of.
Mm-hmm.
And so in light of that, we're not going to report on hearsay. And what I'll say is this. It came from a fairly reliable rumor source over the last couple of years on TGA. So
gotcha.
take that as you will. Like, it was a source that has reliably been providing. It's clearly someone that is internal to GW. Given based on like the information and the stuff we've gotten over the last like 7 or 8 years. So much so that some people have thought that the source is a sanctioned leaking. Because it's just been so consistent over so many years.
I don't think there's any. Believe me, there is no such thing. Believe
that's
me.
fair. That's
I
fair.
have literally been there in person when a leak happened less than 12 hours before a thing was supposed to be released, incidentally in the background of one photo where it was irrelevant. And the chaos that ensued. There is no authorized leaking. You can put that nonsense to bed. Okay?
Well, fair.
That it, like, it caused a corporate-wide, executive-level catastrophe. All right? Like, emergency meeting at the highest levels of the company. No. They do not authoritatively leak. That is this. Anybody who's been anywhere close to them, I cannot reinforce enough how no that is. Like, this is people getting fired instantaneously level of no.
Okay. Well, regardless, one of those sources that has consistently leaked suggested that Chaos Dwarves are on the way for the new edition, like at some point in the new edition,
which would be cool.
So
I'm here for it. So there you go.
Are you? Last I heard from you, they're not a real army.
They're not. But if they get an army release, they will be. See how that works? That's how that works. That's how you become a real boy. Okay. So there we go, Pinocchio. My hope is for you. Like, go get it. Go get that. I hope they find the blue fairy. So there you go. All right. Let's move to some pick of the week. All right. Tom, what would you like to share with everybody?
Yeah, kind of in the spirit of what we're doing, I want to highlight Chuck's channel, Strength Hammer. Right? No.
You bastard.
He's been putting out some hot old world content, and been watching a little bit. Did some high elf army creation, which and the like. So, buddy, for those that don't know, you need to check out Chuck's channel. It's fantastic. So Vince, what are you gonna do now?
I agree. That's why it happens to be listed down in the description already.
Is it really?
Yes, because that was my pick as well. That's fine. I already mentioned it earlier, so I will simply direct everybody to that very nice Cult of Paint episode, which was a great episode. And I'll link that after the show is over. Obviously, I can never recommend the entire team from Cult of Paint enough. They're all great dudes. So go and check it out. They talk about, like, it's the Golden Demon kind of, their response and detailed discussion of the updated rules and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
The situation, as we call it.
Very good. Yes, he did faces and bases. That is exactly what happened. He said, did Tom copy Vince's homework, then present it first? Yes, correct.
No, that's not true. Here's the truth of it. Are you ready for the truth of it? I don't have any of these books, and I had to do research, and so I had to go watch a bunch of YouTube of other old world stuff. Like, I haven't had a chance to play a game yet, and I had to go find digital copies of these things in order to read and prep for the show. And Chuck just happened to be a bunch of content that I watched. So that's how it is, folks. The truth.
Good enough. All right. Well, with that, why don't we leave this contentious pick of the week behind and move over to our hobby time. So, Tom, how's that army going for Holy Wars here in 3 days? You painting in the hotel room?
No, I don't think so. I have 3 bat nights that I'm working on. I mean, it's not as high of a quality as I wanted, but it's also not unpainted, right? I'm in the in between. I've got a round of highlights on, but it still feels that I need to push it in both directions on everything. And so I went for more models than I wanted to. Originally, I was like, I'm going to do a low model count army after I did all the zombies in the fall.
Sure.
And then I just did 40 ghouls. So that was a mistake. And so I didn't go as low model count as I wanted.
No mistake found.
Nah, it's fine. It's fine. And so I ended up not, and then a bunch of stuff happened. I got in a car accident last month, and so painting has been a little bit difficult.
Sure.
It's taken me like I can't sit as long, I can't do the painting thing as long, and all that. So I'm gonna do as best I can, but and then I'm doing some other things that I can't talk about. Yeah, folks, that's right. I have things that I can't talk about on camera yet for hobby time. So I've been doing some of that this last week. And I've also, because of all this stupid old world watching, I've started the unpacking process.
Sure.
So if I'm doing something here and you're like, what is Tom doing? What is he working on? I'm doing unpacking for old world stuff. I counted my high elves.
Yeah.
I sold a bunch this last week.
Sure.
Right now, conservatively, with no upgrades, I'm at about 16,000 points of high elves.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. So I was like, I wonder how much, how much dwarves do I have of old world? And I started unpacking and realized I have about 2,000 points at least of painted dwarves.
Hey, there you go. You got an actual army.
I have an actual army painted of old square based. So I was like, oh, interesting. So so I'm in the process of unpacking a bunch of my dwarves to see what I have there, and then I have a bunch of Tomb Kings. So I'm going to do that. I'm not unpacking them tonight. I'm going to unpack them another night. But so I'm we'll see. We'll see. We'll do some old world.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit here, a little bit there.
Very nice. Excellent. All right. Hey, and Nathaniel, we're glad to have you along on all the live streams. That's great. For myself, I thought I would just do something a little different here rather than try to hold up a mini that no one can see. There you go. That's what I've finished up here. Finally brought this girl to a close. She's not actually attached yet because I wanted to put her aside and then return back to her with fresh eyes a couple more times. This is after a couple rounds of changes. I actually made a video all about how many times I messed this up and had to go back and fix things, and just kind of about that and about failure and all of that. You'll see that. Well, I haven't made the video yet, but I did a bunch of recording and I'll edit it and you'll see it come out, I don't know, probably well in the future. But so this is what I was working on, and I'm pretty happy with how this came out. This is something that's been on my desk for frankly too long, really. But it feels good to have it be, finally done, I suppose, as it were. And so, yeah, that's what I've been painting. And then now with that being done, I then decided to put together this little Tomb King fellow here on foot. I wanted a new Tomb King on foot. Although I may make a little chariot for him and make him my new Tomb King in chariot. I'm not sure yet. Because he feels like he could be a good chariot dude. I have an old chariot Tomb King, but why not get a new one? I have Tomb Kings on feats, so why not get a new guy to put in a chariot? I haven't decided yet, but there we go. Okay, so that's what I've been working on. That's my hobby time. But yeah, overall pretty happy with how she came out. I think that was a good piece. Definitely a sort of level up piece, lots of learnings, things like that. So, yep. Okay. So with that, Tom, why don't we turn to today's main topic, which is to talk about Tomb Kings. Tomb Kings in the old world. They're back, baby. So
not the last march.
Yeah, exactly. Famously, I did a little run of videos a long time ago called The Last March of the Tomb Kings, where, toward the end of their retirement, I did a bunch of videos focused on them and painting them and stuff. And then just when I thought they were gone, they're back. So, cool. And I'm excited about it. I'm going to be straight honest. I've played this army now a couple times in the old world. I really like it. I really love playing it. I think next time I get a game in, I'm actually going to do Bretonnians just to give them a try as well for a future show. But because I have a very large, fully painted army of that as well. But this army is just an incredible amount of fun to play, and I love it, and I thought we'd go through it. Okay. So let's talk about it. Start with a quick overview. Tomb Kings are back, and it feels good. It feels like you're playing the Tomb Kings, and if you're a former player of the army, there's a lot here you will find familiar. One of the things that has always been true, and the reason I love this army, is because you just get to ignore so many rules in the game. Now, your troops have a truly egregious amount of special rules. Like, egregious. Okay?
Yep.
As I famously said, your Tomb Guard, if you build them in the way I build them, have 14 special rules. I would like everybody... Go ahead.
Have you discovered the army builder yet, Vince?
Yes, I have. Absolutely. The army builder is great. It's still being updated. It's still missing some things, but it's always updated all the time.
But what I'll say is this: it helps with the unlimited or the endless rules problem because of the hot linking.
Sure.
Right. Rather than just being words on a page, right? They actually have all the hot links. So as you're building an army, you can click through and see what everything does. Man, that's super helpful as you're learning how to build armies.
Sure. Absolutely. Have a good night, Rob. Hope he probably already left, but that's okay. He knows. Somewhere he knows. I think that can make them a great starter army because you just don't have to worry about remembering certain calculations. You just remember that you ignore a thing. Battle shock. I don't have to worry about that.
Terror, sure. Fear for your
being immune to all psychology, not making break checks, always hitting on 5s with your bows, or 4s, basically 4s or 5s, depending on who's shooting. But all that stuff is honestly pretty great. That being said, it will be quite a jarring experience if you then need to go play a normal army and suddenly need to remember how all these rules that you've been ignoring for months work. Mm-hmm. So that's a little bit of good, a little bit of bad, but I think they're a good starter army. I really do. But yes, they can be a bit of a pain sometimes, but I still think they're good. All right. Somebody said, what army builder? Why, that would be the old world builder, the army builder for the old world. And specifically, I should be able to actually post a list here, or post a link. I should be able to post a link in our own chat, I think. There.
I did not too long ago. Yeah, that worked.
I think that'll work. Okay. So at any rate, that should... Tested that works. Yep, there you go. There you go, everybody. There's your link to the Old World Army Builder. It's still, a bit in progress, so it won't have, everything exactly as you would expect for every army, but it's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Yep. So, Tomb Kings, they still have terrible base troops that lose to most everything in the game when it comes to, your basic troops. They're still garbage. But they have restoration, and really it's about, sort of properly trading your pieces, setting you up for multi-charges, holding things in place with your Garbo troops until you can bring in the heavy hitters, that kind of thing.
It has some decent regen, though.
Yeah.
So,
sure,
yes,
absolutely.
your stuff is Garbo, but you're putting models back, which is not something that a lot of armies can do.
Absolutely true. Yep. And this army can actually have a surprising amount of mobility, depending on how it is built. So what I mean by that is, Tomb Kings, because you're undead, you can't march, okay? Mm-hmm. Which you would think would greatly limit sort of your overall mobility, but it actually... Well, you have Desert Wind, you have quite a few troops with Swift Stride, which is pretty impressive for making big charges. You have quite a few troops with Vanguard and Scout, and you have multiple different troops with reserve moves, which is a whole extra movement at the end of the shooting phase, which is quite strong. So yeah, all that stuff actually turns this army into quite an interesting, different, a mobile force. If you depending on what you're playing, I mean, you could play without all that, depending on kind of how your army's built. And
what One of the questions was, why can't they march?
Why can't they march? Oh, I don't know, because that's just a thing that they can't do.
Because they're slow. Because they're slow and dead.
Like, because of the special rules around everything? I don't know. Because that's what you can't do.
Go on.
It's in there. I remember being like, can I do this? And then I had to go look because I wanted to see if it was still the case. And it's still in there that you can't march. If you're going to ask me to quote page and verse exactly where, no, I don't remember where. I just know they can't.
You want to see something funny, awesome that I found?
Sure.
That's right, folks. That's a dwarven bolt thrower in original packaging.
Wow. New old stock, huh? There you go.
Yeah.
Is it nice to have the whippy measuring sticks back? No, they're terrible. Get rid of those. They're awful. Obviously, those are trash. Those are there for nostalgia only.
As I've been looking at it, I was like, I don't know. I could probably buy a box. Like, I wouldn't mind having a template, and I wouldn't mind having. And I was like, and whippy sticks. Nah, dog. I probably don't need one of those boxes.
I mean, I have so many whippy sticks. I had to put them all away because people kept taking them and messing around with them at the table, and just like I was so annoyed that
whipping people,
threw them all away. If you need templates, Tom, I got templates on demand, so don't worry. Because I never got rid of all my old templates. I just want to say that.
No, the irony is that I have a bunch of 40K like neon green templates as well, and I think they're the same.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
They also make excellent drink coasters. So that's why I never got rid of them. I just used them as drink coasters for a long time because that's how I roll. Okay. The one big change, Tom, is you can stand and shoot now with your Tomb Kings. So that's cool.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, neat stuff, right? Okay. So let's talk about the army itself. Let's get into the actual TK rules. TK fire. Okay. All right, special rules. Let's start with your general army list for the normal Tomb Kings and what you can do. Okay. So your normal Grand Army composition list. You gotta have one Tomb King or Tomb Prince. Fair.
Yep.
And you gotta have one High Priest or Mortuary Priest. Okay?
Yep.
Tomb King.
And then one of them upgrades to the Hierophant. Is that right?
Correct. Your highest leadership, High Priest or Mortuary Priest, becomes a
Hierophant.
Becomes the Hierophant. And same thing applies as normal. If the Hierophant eats it, then your army starts crumbling, right? Okay. And that's amazing. Tomb King Tristan just said Nest's going to give it to you. And yes, that was what I was quoting there. Tristan, I'm glad you caught that. Thank you, absolutely. Nest is not to be trifled with. He's no Mr. Game & Watch, but he's pretty good. So, and then you can have another 0-1 Tomb King or High Priest per 1,000 points. So in a 2,000 point game, you could have, another one. And so that's of like your highest level guys. You could have as many other Tomb Princes as you wanted, but only the King or High Priest. And then your Royal Heralds and Necrotechs, which you can just have some, up to your normal 50% allotment. Okay. So that's kind of your character breakdown, 50% of your army. We talked about it before during the review show. I am curious to get your take, Tom. Yeah. I love this style of army building. Like I said, the mercenaries and the allies can go take a walk, is my honest answer. Outside of like the bringing in stuff from your Armies of Infamy list.
Yeah.
But I legitimately like this style of army building. The fact that obviously this doesn't add up to 100%, and that's the whole point, right? So you can flex the different categories. That's
you can have a heavier hero hammer, or you can go into more core or more special or whatever.
Yeah, like the percentage, either min or max, with then additional unit governor switches, like must have at least one, no more than one, or no more than 3 per, or something like that.
It is an elegant design method.
Yeah, I really like it.
Restricting list building. Yeah, agreed.
And through the Armies of Infamy, you can still get wacky armies that have if you run more monsters or stuff like that, right? You can still get
Yeah, maybe. Like, I don't know. I looked at the Armies of Infamy. Talk about it here for the Tomb Kings, but like I didn't feel like there was anything that crazy, right? Like because I expected the royal, not hunt, the royal guard one. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do a whole tomb guard army. Let's do this. And then I looked and you can't. Like because like yes, you can move like a chariot with tomb guard in there into core, but like tomb guard themselves never go core.
Well, I mean, in the basic army, you can have one unit of Tomb Guard in core. And by the way, like depending on what you're playing, they could be your entire core. If you're when we've played because we played a teams game as well, and so like 1,000 points, per person, right? And like one unit of Tomb Guard could very easily, depending on its size, chew up most of your core points. So
sure.
But at any rate, I mean, I ended up using a lot more for various and sundry reasons because your units are cheap as chips. Speaking of which, let's talk about your core stuff. You got to have 1+ unit of either skeleton warriors, skeleton warriors, or skeleton archers. Okay, so your basic 2 dudes, which is fine. You're basically always going to take some skeleton archers. They're good chaff. They're good, like things to be in the line. They're good just to put some shooting out and weaken some units. You want stuff like that. Keep people's heads down. You can have some number of units. Just whatever you want, of skeleton skirmishers, tomb swarms, skeleton horsemen, skeleton horse archers, and skeleton chariots. Love me some chariots. Love them being core. Here for it. Have been here for it since 2004, when this released. Skeleton skirmishers, Tom, I don't know if you noticed what those were. Those are a new thing.
Yeah, little units of skeletons. But they're not really going to be good for chaff, though, right? Because, like, with Overrun, that seems like it's a recipe for destruction.
Well, I did learn that, but it could still work out in your favor. Like, the answer is maybe, maybe not. I love skeleton skirmishers. I've put them in every list I have. They can be excellent bodyguards, like just cheap bodyguards for foot characters that need to roam around freely. Okay,
because you wouldn't be able to select them out without shooting out the rest of the unit. Is that right?
Yeah. Because characters can join skirmishers. And they do have chariot runners as well, so they can act in kind of interesting ways there, where you can shoot over your guys, basically, shoot through your guys, and move through your guys, and even you can literally charge right over top of them, and they just nudge out of the way when you go in. So it's kind of interesting. And then you can also have 1 unit of Tomb Guard or sepulchral
stalkers.
Yeah, those dudes. The bad snakes.
Hey, I like them.
They're bad. They're so bad.
I didn't say they're good. I just said I like them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And by the way, horse archers also amazing. Like all these things are amazing. Your core choices are all amazing, not for what they can actually kill, but like it's just a utility play all the way around.
Yeah.
Except for tomb swarms, which have no purpose in a normal army, but are amazing in a mortuary cult army, which is what I tend to run. I prefer the mortuary cult.
Why are they significant in a mortuary cult?
Because in a mortuary cult, the mortuary priests can sap wounds off of those to add to their casting. So
got it. And as a swarm. Got it.
You know what's better than +4 to cast, Tom? +7. Turns out. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. So I don't hate magic in this game. I actually quite like it. So at any rate, and then you've got your special troops, which are your Tomb Guard, Shopti, more Sepulchral Stalkers, Carrion, and Necropolis Knights. Not sure what to think about Carrion yet. They're okay-ish. 0-3 Tomb Scorpions. I have used one a couple times. They're all right. We'll talk about various things. We're not going to review every unit, by the by, but we'll talk about them in general, like the things I like. And then 0-2 War Sphinxes, not counting mounts, per 1,000 points. So you really can have a pretty darn War Sphinx heavy list if you want, right? Even with the base army, because you can put your character, like basically 75% of your army could be War Sphinxes.
Because you can put your character on one, and then you have okay.
Yep.
And then 25% of your armor. Okay.
Yep. And then you can have Necrolith Colossus or a Necrosphinx, up to 2 Screaming Skull Catapults per 1,000 points, which are bad, and 1 Casket of Souls per 1,000 points, which is really good. Casket of Souls are amazing. And then, obviously, your Mercs and Allies. And then, of course, as per always, you can upgrade one of your little dudes, your Royal Heralds, to a Battle Standard Bearer for 25 points. Which doesn't have, like, a huge effect on your army. Like, normally, obviously, what a Battle Standard Bearer is doing is pretty massive in the reroll break checks. But here you have a different sort of rule, which we'll talk about when we get to that guy. Because you don't break. All right, but anyways, that's the army. That's your basic list. We'll talk about that more when we get to the other armies, because we will talk about the Armies of Infamy.
Yeah.
Let's get into the actual... Let's talk some magic items, special rules, that kind of stuff. Why do I have... Did I keep... Okay. I guess I kept the magic items first for some reason. Well, that's fine. I don't know why I did that. All right, great. Who cares? I meant to cover the special rules next and then the magic items last, but I didn't. So, yeah, I mean, welcome back to points, Tom. For magic items, we're back, baby.
Like it was like when I cracked open the book for the first time, I like had to take. It was the sharp intake of breath. Like, okay, here we go. Like back to individual models, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, yep. Here we go.
So obviously you've got your big giant weapon, your Destroyer of Eternities.
Yep.
That's your big 2-hander. Killing blow, magical attacks, 2 hands, strike last. And instead of attacking normally, you can choose to make a special scything attack. If you do, the enemy unit they are declaring their attacks against suffers D6 automatic hits, each resolved using the Destroyer of Eternities profile, which is strength +2, AP -2, all that other stuff. It's really good. It's a really good weapon. Like, it just is. Because you're normally swinging with either 3 or 4 attacks on the person that this would have, or be on. Basically 4 attacks, realistically, with the person this would be on. Mm-hmm. Which is your Tomb King. And, like, you just... I mean, making D6 auto hits is just better than 4 attacks. Hitting on probably 3s. Yeah. So, yeah, and like, strength +2 and AP -2 is great. I mean, it's basically just a great weapon, right? But it's a great weapon that can do the scything thing and has killing blow. So... because keep in mind, a great weapon alone would give you strength +2 and AP 2. So, okay. Then you've got the other one, the one that's I have played around with that I do quite like is actually the Flail of Skulls. I think it's amazing. Its strength modifier only applies the first round of combat, but the fact that it's multiple wounds too, do not sleep on that multiple wounds too. That is a very potent ability. Very, very potent ability in this game. You still got your AP -1, so it's fine. Basically, everything in this army is AP -1 because of a special rule we'll talk about later. But the fact that you get that massive strength +3, that's so huge. Like for a Chariot Lord or something like that, fantastic.
So for multiple wounds 2, that means that whenever you cause a wound, it counts as 2?
Yeah, if it's not saved, it becomes 2 wounds.
Yeah.
So, like, beating up on big monstrous infantry and stuff is, really, really strong in this regard.
Are you concerned about the fact that the strength modifier only during the first round of combat?
No, because you can pretty easily get yourself back into, like, if you're using a unit with this guy at the head, like I said, this is actually my preferred kit out for... like a Tomb King on a chariot who's in a chariot unit. And, like, ideally what's happening is that thing is charging in, breaking something.
Obliterate
well, they're not going to obliterate anything because nobody gets obliterated in this game unless they're chaff unit.
Sure.
But they're going to get hit. Hopefully they break back and or fall back in good order. I'll take either, frankly. And then hopefully, like, it'll become a new round of combat the next time.
Right.
Yeah.
A new charge. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Like it'll still be, even if they come back and charge you. Combat ended.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So, there you go. And so, you know, it's kind of fine. Like, he's still a very strong hero. The unit's still perfectly good on its own, but you just like it's cool. Yeah, so I like all that. The never give a priest a magic weapon. That's stupid.
Because they shouldn't be in combat.
Correct. That's right. They should never be in combat. They should just never be in combat. They should always be like on a horse, being sneaky, riding around, having reserve moves, stuff like that. Where they're just like hiding behind the line in a unit of skeleton horse archers or something like that. All right. You got your Armor of Ages, which makes people reroll successful to wound rolls. Pretty potent on a high toughness hero like a Tomb King, I will say. It's very expensive armor, but it can be pretty worth it. It will keep your dude alive. Like, it's a very defensive item. That is real.
That's what it's supposed to be doing.
That's what it's supposed to be doing, yeah.
If you're going to pay points for something, it should do the thing that it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it's really especially effective in a challenge if someone tries to challenge you out, and that's on there. It does make it so it's much, much, much harder for them to bring you down.
Yeah.
So, because it just causes a lot of swinginess, because they're not going to have that many attacks against you, right? Depending on like what you're fighting in that challenge. Yeah. No, Tom just keeps messing with plastic bags. Yes, that's the thing, Cygnus. Absolutely.
Sorry, I'm unpacking my old world army as we're talking. So
and he can't do it anytime but right now.
Nope, I have to do it right now. But continue.
Yes. Sure.
I'm excited. Sorry, folks.
Absolutely. The Crown of Kings is actually pretty solid because it's more resurrection, more restoration, basically. So that's cool. Like, it's a good ability, and being able to do it more when you're unengaged is pretty strong. I like it. Doesn't matter that it's only your skeleton type dudes. That's often what you want anyways. You just want to keep those things topped up. In the standard category, the one I like is like the Icon of the Sacred Eye is pretty great on a unit, on a big unit like Tomb Guard or something. Giving them +1 weapon skill is pretty fantastic. As is the Icon of Recap, where you can single free reform at any point during your movement. Very strong. Again, a lot of this army lives and dies based on its movement, so that can be pretty solid. So yeah, there you go. And then yeah, there you go. That's your magic items. Now I will state we're not going to talk about them in detail because I didn't want to like share every page of every single thing and take 22 years on this. Yep. But Tom, in this book, okay, there are additional magical items.
That's the Expandopedia.
Now, like some of these magic items in the Expandopedia are limited to the particular armies here, but some are not. And I actually, like, I did want to call out, I think I missed a page of magic items. Maybe there's another page of magic items we'll get to. Is there? Did I cut them? Like an idiot? Nope, I didn't. I just accidentally missed that picture. Okay. There is one more page, sorry, and it's really worth mentioning because my absolute favorite magic item is in there, and I'm very sorry, everyone. Okay.
You know what makes thrilling live stream is you looking at books.
Yeah, well, deal with it, okay? I cut out the enchanted and arcane items. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Okay, so within this space, there are a couple of items that I think are very worthwhile. The Icon of Rulership, which is for Chariot Lords, which is one of my favorite ways to build the Tomb King. It makes him incredibly durable and tough.
Yep.
His unit strength goes up to 6, and his impact hits go AP 2 and gain magical attacks, which is very strong for making sure your impact hits land. And then also the Hieratic Jar. Hieratic Jar. Okay. Which is one of the ultra common magic items. It's extremely common, so you can take it multiple times. But it's a 25-point magic item that is single use, but during the command subphase, if you're not engaged in combat, the bearer of the Hieratic Jar can release the power held within it. The bearer may attempt to resurrect the fallen by using the Arise special rule twice during this command sum phase rather than the usual once. Super duper worth it. Super worth it. To have on like your like that 25 points is extremely well spent on your like your Hierophant or whatever, because the fact that he can turn and be like that unit bam, and he can hit 2 things. He can like top a character off and restore a unit in one phase is so unbelievably good. In a similar fashion, in the Expandopedia, there is the Tablets of Tatahath. I don't know how to say any of these words. You can carry 3 of them. They're all single use, but before you make a casting roll, you can break one and get a +1 mod to the casting roll. So, nice. Also a thing that could be worth having if you like. It's nice to have 1 or 2, depending on what's going on. Like 20 points generally isn't too much of an ask, just to make sure a spell gets through. Again, in the Mortuary Cult, I'm all about it, dog. Why not like +7 to cast? Why not +8? You know, like let's go. You know what I hate doing? Failing spell casts. Let's just go. Fated Dispel who? Get your 2d6 without a bonus out of here. Okay, we're doing this. So there you go. All right. Now let's talk about special rules. The actual thing that I was meant to do before magic items. Okay. Yes, it does, Travis. You're absolutely right. For the royal host. So first of all, your arrows, you just never take modifiers. If you have the rule, you don't take modifiers. Positive. Period. Like positive, negative. It's great. Hits on 5s. Just all your archers hit on 5s. Find a hill, put your archers on the hill. Done.
Call it a day.
Call it a day. Roll 5s. It's great. It's really great. Skeleton horse archers are like, you're riding around, you're being all silly, you're getting people into max range, shooting all your little boys off. They all hit on 5s. Then you just reserve move away. Wonderful. Okay. And then you got Cleaving Blow. So this is like for your Tomb Guard and stuff. Works against regular infantry, heavy infantry, light cavalry, heavy cavalry, or war beasts. Boy. And it shuts off, if you roll a 6 to wound, it shuts off armor and regeneration. Okay. Cool. Not as good as Killing Blow, but, you know, still fine enough. It's like weaker Killing Blow. Because it doesn't outright kill them. Although, turning off armor and regeneration is, in fact, in many cases, the equivalent of killing them. Instantly, I will say. Not a lot of ward saves getting thrown around, really. Curse of the Necropolis. If you lose your last wound, the unit that made the attack immediately makes a leadership test. If it's failed, the enemy unit suffers D3 strength 2 hits with an AP of nothing. Okay. Cool. This is your, like, bugs come out of you. I have never remembered to use this rule. Never in the old... We had a version like this before. Never used it since. I don't lose my Tomb Kings that often, though. But still, I don't remember any time I remember to use this rule. And I don't care. Dry as Dust. And basically, like, don't get hit by flaming attacks. That's what that says. It sucks. You are... Oh, my God. I'm still on fire. You know, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And so it's fine. It is what it is. Indomitable, very important rule. Unit with this special rule reduces the number of wounds suffered due to the unstable special rule by the numbers shown in brackets.
How many, how often do you expect that you would be encountering flaming?
Not super often. How often are you fighting dwarves or
elves?
No, there's not a huge amount of flaming in elves. I mean, there's like dwarves can flame rune up their stuff and things like that. They've got a lot of or fire throwy things that throw fire on people. You know, I mean, Bretonnian peasants can have flaming bows and stuff. Like it's there, right?
Yeah.
Travis, never throw good money after bad. You just gotta tank that, okay? Just this last week, in our D&D game, we were fighting an archmage, and he had flame shield up, and we didn't have any dispels. We're like very low level. There's a ridiculous, crazy fight, and I'm like, well, only one way to get through a flame shield: just kill the wizard. So everybody hit him until we're all dead. Hopefully he dies before we do. That's the plan. That's the tactic. Sometimes you gotta just face tank it. Don't throw good money after bad. Indomitable is really important. I cannot state this enough, because especially on the units that tend to have it, because those units are often susceptible to losing combat by a few points.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, really, really is awful when you just start crumbling every time you, because I mean, that's what happens. You lose combat, you crumble. Right?
Yep.
That's still a thing, Tom. It didn't go away.
I watched a battle report, and after, like, every time, like, the individual kept losing combat, and she just had to keep rolling crumble rolls, and I was like, you're breaking my heart. Like, this is just, it looks so painful.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Tomb Kings.
Well, I mean, when you're unstable, okay, like obviously you're unbreakable as Tomb Kings, which is great.
Yeah.
It's great to be unbreakable. Now, I should note here that unbreakable doesn't mean you don't give ground. Okay?
Right.
In fact, it means you just default back to give ground. Okay?
Yep.
And however, you will have a rule that we talk about here in just a moment that can shut that off as well. So, like, one of the interesting things about this army is that many of your units can just sit there. And, like, if they lose and they've got some decent Indomitable, maybe they lose a wound or two, but they really just do not move. And that's actually quite potent in this current world, because you can push them back, but they can't push you back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So your lines become much more predictable, which is cool. So, yeah. So, unstable is not a great rule to have. It hurts. But Indomitable is pretty important, so watch out for it. It's those units that have it. It's very much worth paying attention to. Khopesh, a hand weapon carried by a model with a special rule, has an AP characteristic of -1. Cool. It's great. Like, it's just a great rule. It means that most of your units that have the Khopesh rule just have an AP of 1. Like, a lot of your army ends up being AP -1, even when they're fighting with just like their basic weapons, and that's pretty awesome. Because AP 1 is like pretty decent in this game. Because remember, armor saves never, ever, ever get better than a 2-up, and realistically, you're most often fighting like a lot of 4-ups. 4-ups and 5-ups and stuff like that. Nehekar and Phalanx. This is the thing that if you're in close order and you choose shields, you can choose not to give ground. So, there you go. So they have to more than twice outnumber you to make you give ground, which in general you're not going to run into, because this is going to be on things like a big unit of Tomb Guard. So most of the time that unit isn't going to generally get hit hard enough to where it actually like is going to be in any kind of that kind of danger. It's a pretty tough unit. Your Nehekar and Undead rule, which is what we call a Matryoshka doll rule, because it's a rule that actually has 4 other rules in it. Oh, there it is. Models with this special rule are undead. Undead models cannot march. There you go. Ha, I knew it was in there. Yeah. Unless they have the fly rule. So that is in defense of your carrion. Being able to fly lets you march in this army, which is cool. In addition, all undead models have the following special rules: fear, immune to psychology, unbreakable, and stable. Cool. All right. So there you go. And then there's just the rules for in what order you resurrect the fallen, which is fine. Which is because it's generally the order you'd want to do it anyways. So, but like, you just follow the logical pattern. Anything jump out to you as unusual there, Tom? I mean, it's a lot of the same stuff that was the old Tomb King thing.
It's so funny. Like, one of the things as I've been looking through and building and all that, it's just like, it felt like home. Yep. Right? Like, all of it just feels as it was. As it should be, right? Like, the rules just make sense. Now, that means nothing to anyone that never played fantasy, right? Like, this is all just rules everywhere, like old rules overwhelming, but a lot of this just is what they should be, right? Like, sure. It's the difference between trying, like, do you remember when we played, this is going to be a terrible analogy, and AOS players are going to hate this. you remember when we used to play that old terrible RPG D&D 4th edition?
Sure. Sure.
And like so much of abilities and stuff like that was like sanding off the name of things and like rebranding things because they're like you had to do that in order to make it feel like the thing that it was supposed to be.
Yep.
And it feels like in AOS we've sometimes had to do that because the entire identity of things had to sit in like one or two abilities.
Sure.
Like it's a profile with one or two abilities on a war scroll, and that's what made the thing. And I know that this is a much more complex system, but I will say that, like, but things feel like the things that they are. Like the
things
nuances
feel like the things they are.
Yeah, like the nuances of units and of the identity of things is real.
Yep.
I remember looking through the High Elves and like looking at the Swordmasters, and I'm like, yep, this is that thing.
This is like, that thing.
With all the crazy rules and the knocking arrows out with your 6-up ward save, like all of that is there still. Yep. And so, for better or worse, the rules actually are doing something. Like the rules are part like that are implicit in the identity of the thing, and I think that really feels what we see when we're like, for example, looking at Tomb Kings. Like this is what Tomb Kings are.
They're such a special rule heavy army, which is perhaps counterintuitive to the earlier thing I said about a good starting army, although I do really believe they are. And what's up? First off, hey, what's up, Forge Wonders? What's up, Kieran? How you doing, brother? Hope everything's well up there in Canada. And it's good to see you back on the show there, man. Good to see you tuning in. Absolutely. Yeah, I love this army because when you play this army, it feels like you're playing the Tomb Kings. Like it really, really, really does. Okay. Yeah. And I like the way this plays. It's funny because I actually made this. When I was playing a game, I made this commentary to my opponent. I pretty much hate all death armies in AOS. Okay. I hate that they get to all be bravery 10, which is how they captured their unbreakable nature, right? Mm-hmm. I hate that you have so much ridiculous model restoration, like too much. I don't like it. It's like literally unfun to me to just be like, and this comes back, and this comes back, and this whole unit comes back, and stuff like that. I do not like it, and I do not like that design. I get undead should have some kind of model restoration. This is the correct amount. Like what I'm doing here in this army is the correct amount. I'm not putting 30 zombies back on the table, right, in one go, off turn.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And so like when I play a death army in AOS, I have to deal with too many extra dumb rules. When I play an undead army, my Tomb Kings specifically in the old world, I'm like, this is great. I feel like I'm playing the thing, and my experience is simplified. I'm using less of the rules effectively because it just cuts out huge annoying parts of the game for me that I just don't have to even think about anymore.
Yeah.
So that's great. Okay, let's talk about the spells. So obviously this is effectively your 3 default spells. You can you don't get to, your wizards, as we'll see, don't pick from this lore. Like that is to say, you don't roll in this lore. There's not 6 of them here that you can roll numbers or dice against. But when you roll out your spells, you get to discard. You may choose to discard one of them. To pick one of these instead of the signature spell.
Is it one total or one per hero?
One total. Oh, per hero. Sorry. Yeah, per hero. I didn't know what you were asking me.
Yeah. Like if you had multiple wizards.
Yeah, if you have multiple casters, they could select different. Yeah. They can each toss out one and pick one of these. Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Okay. So talk about them real quick here. You got the Incantation of Cursed Blades. It's an enchantment. So interestingly, all of these are happening during the command phase, the first phase of the game, because they're enchantments and hexes. And so Incantation of Blades is until your next start of turn subphase, any friendly unit that has the Nehekar and Undead special rule, which is like your army, obviously. And that is within the caster's command range. Command range is equal to your leadership, unless you're the general or the standard bearer. In which case it's 12 inches, unless you're on a big monster, in which case it's 18 inches. Anyways, may reroll any hit rolls of 1, which is very, very, very potent when it comes to this. Rerolling is always very strong, so duh. Obviously extremely strong if you're like that dude sitting in the middle of a unit of Tomb Guard or something similar, right? Or has a unit of snakes right next to him or something. But my hot pick is always the Incantation of the Desert Wind. I'm there for it because it's got this 6-up, 10-up thing, and you're rolling for that 10-up so hard. Like, this is what you have your Hierophant casting. This makes it so you get to either pick one unit if you get the 6-up, or everybody within your command range, and they all get the reserve move special rule. That's really good. That's super duper duper good.
Have you found that you like the reserve rule?
Yeah, reserve move. Yeah, you get to move for free at the end of your shooting phase. Yeah, it's super good. Because turns out getting an extra movement at the end of your phase is strong. Because what you can often do with it is either some maneuver you need to do, like you moved and you can do some maneuver now, burn your whole move doing some maneuver. Or you could be like, I'll just move back. Right? Like you could just literally walk back. Like depending on what you're trying to do. So like it's just a very strong rule. It lets you basically like do some interesting repositioning. Like you kind of move everybody and then it gives you a little bit more repositioning capabilities. And then your Incantation of Desiccation. It's a hex with a 15-inch range that until the end of this turn, the target enemy unit suffers a -1 modifier to its strength and toughness to a minimum of 1. The effects of it can only have 1 hex on them at a time. Sure, it's fine. I mean, -1 strength and toughness is obviously pretty good. So, all fine. All perfectly fine. The problem with hexes with a 15-inch range is it's pretty hard to use. You can't throw it on someone in combat. So, like, you know. Tough.
Yeah.
That being said, if you happen to be in range, it can be an okay thing to have in your pocket. But Desert Wind is always my first pick. All right. Oh, there they are. Of course. See, I did have them, Tom. I just missed the pages. There it is. Why didn't you read over this and tell me I had these in the wrong order? There you go. There's the icon of rulership I was talking about earlier and the Hieratic Jar. Found them. Found them, everybody. There they are. Cool. Okay. Cool. Good stuff.
Yep.
Right on. Army rules. Some of my favorites. Let's talk about army rules specifically. Now, I'm not going to go over every single unit in the book, okay? Because, frankly, there's just too many of them. And, I'll talk about some others that aren't here. These are the ones that I really like. Cygnus said I told you were there. You flipped right past them. Oh, well, I'm sorry, Cygnus. I'm an idiot. Let's talk about these dudes.
Okay.
First off, your monarchs. Your Tomb King and your Tomb Prince. So one thing to note is I really love the standardization around troop type and base size. Regular infantry, 25 mil base. That's just what it is down the line, right? So like bases got very unified, troop types got very clearly defined. All that kind of stuff is very clean. It's great.
Yep.
Dude has good options. Oftentimes I'll give him the flail if I'm not going to give him a magic weapon. Or a shield or something like that. You can be mounted. There's a series of different mounts you can put your dude on, including a horse, a chariot, a big dragon, a war sphinx, and so on. I prefer the chariot, honestly. I think is my favorite one. I like that he can then still be in the unit. The chariot is additive with his wounds, and so he ends up becoming basically a 7-wound model, which is pretty tough to remove when he's base toughness 5. So pretty great. And obviously he gets the big, 50 or 100 magic items points, same as always. Curse the Necropolis, the stupid thing you'll forget and doesn't matter. Dry as Dust, Flammable, Indomitable 2. Kopesh, My Will Be Done, Nekar and Undead, Regeneration 5-up. That Regeneration 5-up is really important. A lot of your units have Regeneration, which is fantastic. It gives you like one other extra chance at a pseudo ward. Does still count toward combat res, but in the end it's nice because it can keep you in the fight. Importantly, this guy has a command ability now. This is a new thing, and I love it. But during the command sub phase, each of your people get to do one of their command things every turn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he can do either forward to glory plus D3 movement. Basically, it'll be him in any unit he's part of. So either D3 movement plus 1 weapon skill or plus D3 initiative. Obviously, strike like the Cobra is incredible. Plus D3 initiative is wonderful because your army is pretty slow. So if you drop that and get that big 3, it actually is very meaningful to your force in where they go. So, yep, pretty cool. Of course, it also gives you the important chance every time I use this ability to say, much like Nicolas Cage, I've studied the ways of the Cobra, and then do this every time. And then I roll the dice. So, there you go. It's rewarding narratively, I think. Absolutely, Cobra Kai mummies. That's right. Strike first, strike hard, no mercy. Yeah. Any thoughts on our Tomb Prince here, Tom?
No, I mean, I like what he does. I wonder if, because for construction you can have basically either like a king or the high priest, right? You can't have both.
No, you get both.
Or do you get both? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Because you can have a Tomb King, and then it's like the other one's per 1,000, so you can't take.
Oh, is it per 1,000? Okay, yeah. Sorry, I also have been like neck deep in high elves, and their construction rules, like you get an archmage or you get a prince. Yeah. You don't get both. Yeah.
Yep. No, this army is very much about having 2 powerful leaders, right? Like, just because that's the classic build. There's like a high priest who's the hierophant and a Tomb King who's the military leader. Like this army has always had that kind of construction pattern.
And your casket doesn't count as a hero, or it doesn't count as either, right?
No, it's just a rare choice.
Yeah.
It does rule, though.
I hear that.
Yeah.
I do.
It's we'll talk about it when we get there. I love
what's your favorite mount for your Tomb King?
Definitely a chariot. Absolutely. Because he can still go in the unit of chariots, it takes him up to 7 wounds. It makes him much more mobile, because obviously now he's moving around at the chariot speed. The bonus to weapon skill or initiative can be massive on that unit, depending on like what's happening, like at that particular moment.
Do you see yourself doing any other mount or any other heroes on chariots other than your Tomb King?
No.
Like,
probably
would
not.
You do a herald, for example, on a chariot?
I have one modeled. I do have one. I actually don't like him in that unit, is my honest answer. I prefer him on foot in a Tomb Guard unit.
Okay.
I mean, the other mount, if you want to be sort of wild about it, is putting him on either the big dragon or the War Sphinx. The advantage to being on the big dragon is the big dragon does have fly, so suddenly he can march in that construction. But I mean, keep in mind, if he's on the chariot, he has reserve move, which gives him pseudo march. So, but kind of better because his unit can still shoot. Right.
Yeah, that's fair.
But like, I love him in the chariot. Like this, you don't sleep on that. My Worthy Champions, the +1 weapon skill, it's pretty legitimately good. You don't generally need the D3 movement with the Chariot Lord because you're already move 8 with Swift Stride, so like you're able to more or less get where you want to go. But the +1 weapon skill is actually quite meaningful, especially if you are playing with like the Tomb Guard chariots. It actually has a huge impact because he can join that unit all the same if you happen to have them in there. And putting him at weapon skill 7 actually means he can he's really hard to get any good number on by anybody. So
I hear that. What are your thoughts on the D3 initiative? The strike.
It's incredible. It's incredible. It's straight up incredible. Now, often on the charge, he'll still your unit will still go first against anything except the speediest armies. but it's nice to have that option. Like, you know, if this guy plows into a unit of sword masters, let's just take the sort of example of speedy killy things, right?
Speedy pain, yeah.
You're at the same initiative they are, like with your Tomb King.
You're saying because you're at a base 4,
and then you get 3 for charging.
And then you get 3 for charging. I got it. And so you move to a 7.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, that's not great. Okay, it's fine. You're going to get your attacks, but they're still going to get to attack as well. Right. So, like,
but if you D3 yourself, you're gonna
then you know you're first, right? Unless there's a character in the unit, you know you're first.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And he can do some decent damage to the unit then, and hopefully reduce the fighting rank some before the crackback. And so I think that's why it matters. Yeah.
Yeah.
In against the non-super speed armies, that bonus lasts until your next start of turn phase. Mm-hmm. So if you go get in combat and then don't end up breaking them or something like that, okay?
Yeah.
It can actually be pretty valuable to have, you know, to be at like initiative 5, 6, 7 or whatever, you know, like 5 on your normal troops or whatever. During that time, because then you don't necessarily, you don't then necessarily go last in the next combat, right? The next in the next round when it passes to their turn, you may still be able to go first because you're carrying that bonus through.
And does your chariot strike on your initiative?
No, it uses its like. What do you mean? It's impact hits or the mount?
Yeah, the mount.
The mounts use their own initiative. Everything, every component uses their own initiative.
So, like, if you had a War Sphinx would use its 1.
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
I mean, it gets a D3 because, like, that initiative is a thing in its mount could get a D3.
Sure. The real thing that makes me sad, I would love so much, and they didn't. Sadly, they didn't give me the option I really wanted. I want to put him on a snake. I want to make him a snake rider and put him in a unit of snakes, but sadly, they didn't give me that option.
Sure.
Boo. We know that you could take the guy off the snake because the special army can get unmounted snakes.
Just snakes, right? Mm-hmm. Just snakes. Yes.
Yeah. So I like that. Like, you have a great general. He's leadership 10. Like, I more or less always spring for the Tomb King. I think he is worth it. Having a unit that's leadership 10, that's huge leadership and a big command range. He's very likely to get off his My Will Be Done with that number. He's like, his stats are fantastic at weapon skill 6 and strength and toughness 5 base. Like, he's a house. You know, he gets there. I think he's worth every bit of that 160 points, 195 or whatever with the chariot. Completely worth it. So, like, when I look at that 2,000 point force, I'm like, yeah, this guy's totally worth 10% of my army. I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So,
have you? Well, this is a tangential question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we'll get to it, I guess, later, but I'll mention it now just because you could have a mounted king. Like, have you done any rebasing with the new base sizes?
I have. What I've done new is all on the correct bases. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I have not moved any old stuff to new bases yet. I'm just going to wait to Adepticon because I know somebody there is going to sell the base adapters, and I'm going to pick a bunch of those up. You can order them from Minimag. They have the adapters. So that's 3D printed adapters, all sorts of things like that. And that's fine.
So I mean, I guess this is a general question for those, because you all didn't talk about it at all in your first show about the base changes. What all base changes have we seen other than the 30 by 60?
Yeah, correct. I mean, quite a lot. If you think about it, a lot of troops are on 20 mil squares. Like, think about how many troops are on 20 mil squares. A lot. Okay. Like regular skeletons, skeleton archers, like out of this army. Basically, everything that was on foot was on 20 mil squares, right? For the most part. And
now that I think about it, all of my dwarves are on 25. Like,
they're on 20s or 25?
On 20s. They're all on 20s right now. Yeah.
Yes. So, like, either you rebase them, 20 mil bases are gone. Correct. Everything, it's now very standardized. Like, a regular infantry, army independent, right? Skink to Chaos Warrior or whatever is a 25 mil, or
Yeah.
Chaos Warrior I think is on the bigger base, but
Yeah.
whatever, pick your thing. Bestigor, there you go, he's big. They're all regular infantry. Those are on 25 mil bases. So, and then yes, Cav went to 30 by 60. I mean, there's some other changes. Like it's around. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Like I said, honestly, since most of it is going up, it's easy because you just buy the little adapters or 3D print the little adapters.
Yeah.
There's a ton of them out there already that you can just pop, slot everybody into. You're good to go. Who cares? So, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Like that's honestly legitimately simpler than pulling all those bases
cutting and gluing and
yeah. I mean, I should rebase all my Tomb Kings because they're like they're bad. Their bases are all bad, but whatever. All right. Royal Heralds. This is your banner guy.
Yep.
What's up, banner guy? He's trash. He's a trash model in combat. He doesn't really do anything. He's trash.
Yep.
But he's cheap. The reason you're taking this guy, if you're taking him, so he has like the Banner of the King, Dry as Dust, Flammable, Indomitable 1, Kopesh, Nakar, Undead, Regeneration 5 up, and Sworn Protector. Okay. And he can take a bunch of things that you shouldn't spend points on. Like, maybe a shield, I guess. Maybe. It's probably a worthwhile 2 points. If he's your Battle Standard Bearer, then he replaces Hold Your Ground, a thing that doesn't do anything for you. Yeah. With this new rule, which says friendly units within the Battle Standard Bearer's command range, which remember is 12 inches, may reroll any failed leadership test. In addition, friendly units within the Battle Standard Bearer's command range reduce the number of wounds lost due to the unstable special rule by D3. Great rule. Great rule.
Yeah. Yeah.
Effectively, he's giving everybody within 12 inches around him. And remember, that's just within. Yeah. Not wholly within. So there's a big bubble. Okay. Indomitable D3. So, like, it's pretty much worth 85 points to have him, like, center your army, have him be in a unit, and just kind of be broadcasting that nice 12-inch bubble out there of Indomitable D3. It really will cut your losses considerably.
Yeah.
Any opinions on round bases and the square movement trays? Yeah, I have no problem with it. Why not? Yeah, 100%. Go nuts. I think it's a great idea. Like, yeah, let's get... I mean, like, we cannot... It's something... I'm going to take a strong stance here. We as a community cannot be base elitists, okay? Like, it's not the time for that. This is a movement tray thing. They've already talked about using that you're... Like, on the website... They were like,
they talk about unit fillers.
Yeah, remember unit fillers? They're back, baby. Here's how you make these. And it's like, okay, if we're willing to just let some discarded piece of terrain represent 6 models in a unit or something, right? Then I don't know where moral high ground you're standing on when you just let somebody slot their rounds into the square adapter. So I'm here for it. And then obviously he has Swarm Protector. Where he can take the hit on himself. He shouldn't. He dies very easy. The actual Monarch is much harder to kill and will be just fine. And yes, you're right. It is better technically than Indomitable D3 since it does stack with Indomitable. You're absolutely right. So it's like super Indomitable D3. You're correct. So, yeah, there you go. Cool. But the Hold Your Ground rule is why you take this guy, and I think he's worth the 85 points. I've never, like, I don't think any of the standards are worth it for, like, actual Magic standards. Like the expensive ones that he would carry around. None of them move me. Honest answer. Like, even in the Expandopedia, there's a really good standard in here. The Sigil of Centuries, which is awesome. Because this is another part of that initiative plan, Tom. But the Sigil of Centuries can go on anybody. It's not just on this guy. Because it's a banner that only costs 45 points. But all enemy units within 6 inches of this model have a -1 modifier to their initiative characteristic. It's great. It's great. So, yeah. Like, but that's a, like, again, -1 initiative to the enemies is great. Bring them down to your level, right? So, okay. Lich Priests. These guys have 2 pages of rules. So, yeah, you get High Priests and Mortuary Priests, you know, whatever. And, there again, regular infantry. It's a guy. Your spells here, Tom, are Elementalism, Illusion, and Necromancy.
Which is weird, because Necromancy used to not be their thing. Like, they used to be, like, life, energy, empowerment, not death power.
Hey, I mean, it's the one. That's the base spell that's the closest.
Understand.
They're all kind of mixed up, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as to what's in each.
So here's the question. Are you springing for the High Priest, or do you see a space for Mortuary Priest?
The Mortuary Priest is fine. I think you should generally have 1 High Priest in your army, if you can. More than, like, almost any force, I would tell you to go get a High Priest. To go get a level 4 Priest. Okay, like, make him a High Priest, make him a High Priest. He's worth 170 points. Yes, 100%. Like, in this army, you want that power.
Yeah.
Because, like, obviously, your spells are going to be fairly important for you to get off. There's a lot of things like that.
And a rise is so important.
Exactly. Arise, which we'll talk about in a minute, triggers off of your, like, has potency based on your wizardry level. And so, like, it's pretty important. I have found, Tom, in playing with all 3 of these schools of magic, my favorite is not what you think it is. It's not necromancy.
It's elementalism.
It is elementalism. Yes, you're exactly right. I love elementalism. Oh, okay, good.
From
good.
2 weeks ago.
There you go. Yes. Elementalism rules. And like, it's great to give to your level 4, because then you have a pretty decent chance of rolling a 5 and getting Wind Blast, which is a spell that rules. But I mean, Plague of Rust is good. Wind Blast is good. Elemental Spirit is fine. You know, like Earthen Ramparts is fine. Like, they're all fine, honestly. And even Travel Mystical Pathway, like, yeah, it's good. It's an interesting set of spells that have a varied set of abilities. The only one I don't like is Flaming Sword, but whatever, it's fine. By the way, its signature spell in Elementalism is another penalty to initiative.
That's pretty hot.
Yep. So again, it's just like stack it up, right? You got to get people down to your level. So yes, as mentioned, this guy does have the Arise thing. He's got a bunch of other stuff, like, you know, Curse the Necropolis, Indomitable Kopesh, Lord of Nakar, Undead Regeneration, 5 of them from Beneath the Sands. Okay. Arise is really nice because, yes, you're making a leadership test. Oh, also, the other reason for the High Priest, Tom, is it moves your leadership to 8. And keep in mind, when you're making these command ability checks as a hero, you're using your own leadership.
Yes, yeah.
So, like, even if he's standing right next to the general who's making him leadership 10, he's using his 8 or 7 for this test. Okay?
Yeah.
So, and if you pass it, a single friendly unit that has the Nakar and Undead special rule, read your army within 12 inches, again, just within, not wholly, recovers a number of lost wounds. And then that, how many they get is based on the thing. No, it's all just within. It's all within. I just pointing it out because I think many AOS players, at this point, we all we're so scarred, we all just read it as wholly within, and so I want to point it out. And if you hit a regular infantry or a heavy infantry or swarm unit with this thing, you're getting 4 plus a D3 wounds wounds worth of models restored.
Great.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
So
I
cool.
will take that many Tomb Guard back. Yes, please.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, exactly.
Or that's on average 2 chariots.
Yep. I mean, and don't sleep on the fact that, again, when you're talking about monstrous infantry, so your Ushabti, That's your level of wizardry, just straight up your level of wizardry.
I'm sorry.
So like,
it was one chariot. On chariots you get the wizardry level back, so you're getting one per.
Yeah.
But still, or one per hero build.
Correct. It's only heavy chariots, monstrous creatures, behemoths, or war machines that they get a single wound, which is like, okay. That's the only time where your wizard level doesn't matter. And again, you still need the higher leadership still made you more likely to get it. So I have found most of the time I'm targeting, infantry and monstrous infantry. That's just the way it's happening. I'm not stitching together those big things very often. And then from Beneath the Sands, which this is a really weird rule in the way it interacts with the game. Okay. Because so like this is kind of weird to sort of explain, but like in the strategy phase, right? You begin with the start of turn phase.
Yep.
Okay. And during the start of turn phase, such a great piece of art. I flipped by this. I love this. Flip by that. Look at that. Good piece of art. Great. At any rate, love the just awesome stuff. Anyways, okay. So ambushers. A unit with a special rule may be held in reserve. Blah blah blah. From the beginning of round 2 onwards, roll a d6 during each of your start of turn subphases. For each unit of ambushers in your army that is held in reserve. Okay? So, at that start of turn subphase, you roll to determine if an ambusher is coming on the table. Now, keep in mind, they don't come on the table until later in the movement phase.
But you roll early.
You roll early. And then, after you've rolled that, you still get a choice of whether or not you want to use this. Okay? So, because the command subphase is happening afterward. So you already know whether or not your ambushers are coming. And then you can do this, right? So, during the command subphase, their turn, if they're not engaged in combat, this character may choose a single a single friendly unit that has both the Nahakaran Undead and the Ambusher's special rules that is currently held in reserve and attempt to summon it by making a leadership test using their own leadership. If this is passed, it's immediately summoned and can be placed on the battlefield anywhere completely within 12 of this model, but not within 6 of any enemy models. The unit cannot charge during this turn and counts as having moved for the purposes of shooting, but can otherwise act as normal. So they can't charge, but they can move still. Which is interesting.
Yeah.
And then if you fail, then they don't show up, right? So you can kind of get like 2 bites at the apple for your ambushers. I honestly don't think it's worth it most of the time, just because I don't really like putting any of our stuff in ambush. I've played around with ambush, and I'm just like honestly not there for it. Easy.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to play with it because there's a lot of options with ambushers. Like obviously, I've spent a lot of time in the high elf space. Some of my dwarves definitely have it as well. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it would play with Tomb Kings, especially if you're able to guarantee some of that from the Beneath the Sands.
It makes it more likely. I think this makes the ambusher like at least part of the discussion. I think without a rule like this, ambushers are pretty terrible. What's interesting about this is honestly summoning up last minute redirect chaff. Okay. Yeah. Like suddenly there's a thing in front of them, because this only has to be 6 inches away from enemy models when it pops up. And so like you could pop them up and put them at such an angle that like if the enemy is going to charge, they have to charge that thing, and when they front towards it, they even though they're going to kill it, when they overrun, they kind of shoot off in front of you and give you their flank to then countercharge. That I think is a pretty valid and strong use of them, but it's not like how you're not summoning the thing to go like kill something. It's literally just like you're going to summon a weird speed bump that redirects the enemy out of your way, right?
Sure, I can see that.
Which isn't bad, but
I mean, is that worth spending some points to get a skirmisher unit to do that?
Potentially. It's I'm not sure. that's I'm still, that's what I said, I'm still very much on the fence on this one, but at any rate, it's there. Okay, Necrotect. Again, he's like a Garbo hero as far as actual stats go. He doesn't really do much of anything. Got a whip though, which is fun. Yay. But he has like the best command ability. That's why you take this guy. This guy is 55 points for this command ability. Again, you don't give him any magic items. He doesn't need any extra. He has no other gear choices. It's fine. Yep. He's there to be stuck in a unit of Tomb Guard. That's what this guy might as well say. Yep. Okay. He makes a test using his own leadership, which is on a 7. So it's more likely than not, but it's not an easy check. If it's passed until your next start of turn subphase, this character and any unit they have joined gains the extra attacks +1 and hatred, all enemies special rules. Woo! Yeah, that's good. That's real good.
That's pretty good. Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hatred. Yep.
I mean, as a quick aside, if you have your Tomb Guard and you get this off and they, land a reasonable charge or get into a fight, it's pretty good. It's pretty good as things go. Turns out it's pretty scary. Now, I don't have the scroll in here for this guy, but I thought I'd just very quickly discuss the Arc Necrotect. This guy comes in as part of the Expandopedia. Okay. Totally different dude, which is what's so funny about it, Tom. So this dude is 90 points instead of 55, so he's like considerably more expensive. Same exact thing. He literally even has the same piece of art. They couldn't be bothered to give him a new piece of art. It's that picture again.
Yeah, I'm aware. Yes.
But this guy has a totally different role. Okay. And he's like a more Lord level character. He's still a garbage fighter, but like at least he has 3 wounds and stuff. But he has Immortal Overseer, where during the command subphase of your turn, he can drive a single friendly unit within their command range to greater efforts by making a leadership test. If this test is passed until your next start of turn subphase, that unit gains plus D3 to its initiative.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. So if you've got...
Pretty good.
So now let's do some stocking blocking, right, Tom? We've got the signature spell. That's a -1. We've got the banner. That's a -1. We've got the Arch Necrotect for plus a D3. We've got a Tomb King for plus a D3. All of a sudden, we are zippy fast as lightning Tomb Kings, right?
Yeah.
So pretty cool. And then he also has Stone Shaper, which he can only use if he's not in combat. And he can nominate a single friendly Necrolith Colossus, Necrosphinx, unit of Ushabti or Venerable Ushabti until the end of this turn. The nominated unit improves their armor value and blah blah blah. The nominated unit improves the armor value of its regeneration save by 1. So he gives them +1 regeneration. Really good. Really good. Turns your Venerable Ushabti into a regeneration 5-up. That's how you're using it. Like, that is how you're using it. Because those guys are a little fragile. Little fragile. But regeneration 5-up goes a long way to solving that. So just thought it'd be interesting to mention that guy. You can take him in the normal army construction because he could show up as part of your sort of allies force. So worth like, to me, he's a pretty worthwhile inclusion. All right. Let's get into the normal infantry here. Tomb Guard. Tom, you know him, you love him. Here we are.
I want to do an entire army of Tomb Guard. I know that, like, it's not good.
I mean, you pretty much can. Because one unit can be core. It's very easy for that unit to basically be your core. You wouldn't want to take up all your core with it. Like, legitimately, you probably do want some unit of skeleton horsemen or something.
Like, you probably want, like, you could probably do a 300-point unit of Tomb Guard. Like, that wouldn't be tough, right? To do a big block with some upgrades, right?
No.
And then, no, what?
No, it's not hard. It's very easy.
Yeah.
It's very easy.
Yes. And then, like, to easily do another 20-ish archers is only 100 points. So you could easily go to like a couple, like 2 blocks of 20 archers or something like that. And then just do more Tomb Guard. I just want to use the better models. Like, if I'm being completely honest, like the Tomb Guard models are simply beautiful. And the fact that you can get 20 of them in a box is sexy.
Yeah, they're part of the newer sculpts.
Yeah.
So like they came out in the 2011 wave. I still have a bunch of the original metal ones too from that, which were fine, by the way.
Hard pass. I mean, I know they're fine. Hard pass.
That's fine.
I have like 30 metal sword masters, and I'm like, ugh,
sure,
it's so painful.
But yeah, Tomb Guard are fantastic. I mean, your basic Tomb Guard, move 4, weapon skill 3, ballistic skill 3, strength and toughness 4, which is wonderful. 1 wound, 2 initiative, 1 attack, leadership 7, 10 points apiece. It's fine. They're not incredible. There are certainly many, many better sort of pseudo elite units. These guys are still regular infantry. They're not even heavy infantry. They do only have light armor. Okay, so it should be noted these dudes are only on a 5-up save. Okay. But like this, obviously you're giving the full kit to. I don't really often feel the need to give them halberds, though you can. There's nothing wrong with it. They've already got Kopesh as a rule, so they're already AP1 with their hand weapons. It's just a question of whether or not you want the strength bonus. I almost always give them a magic standard. I think it's completely worth it. I don't ever feel the need to give the Tomb Captain any magic items. That feels like a complete waste of time. And the Drilled and Nehekar and Phalanx rules are actually fairly okay, I guess. Drilled you only get to take like half advantage of because you can't march.
Okay.
Right, so it just gives you...
But you could still reform.
Correct.
Right? Like that's...
Correct.
Which is, to me, that seems like that's where the money's at.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Nehekar and Phalanx is totally worth it. Totally worth it. Because, again, the ability to just never give ground with this unit is valuable. You never get pushed. Never your enemy never gets the choice, right? To push you back, to get you out of position. Like if you set up for a counter charge and you know how that's going to look, it will hold the line, right? Which is very valuable. They all have cleaving blow as well, which is cool. They're a close order unit. This is for kind of first time we've mentioned it because most of the other heroes obviously are just people on foot. And they have Regeneration 6-up. They are a regimental unit, Tom. I don't know if you noticed that. Okay. Regimental units, what that means is... Do you remember how the Empire used to work with detachments?
Yep.
It's that. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, many armies can have detachments now. And so, like, your Tomb Guard are a regimental unit, which means they can have little... detachments. They can be accompanied by detachments. So, for example, the skeleton archers can be a little detachment on the side, and then they'll act like a detachment, shooting in response and stuff like that. So, pretty cool. I played around with it a little bit. Didn't see much benefit. It's interesting enough. It's fine. I think I need to figure out how to use it better because it didn't really do much for me. But I'm sure there's some use to it. Okay. Let's see. And of course, we got to talk about your basic skeleton warriors. The trash troop that's just here to exist. Garbo
bodies,
stats
baby.
All the way down the line.
Bodies.
Just bodies. Just bodies, bodies.
And you can summon, like, there was one item that you throw and get like 2d6 plus 4.
Yeah, correct.
I saw that and I was like, this looks like an objective taker to me.
Yeah, sure. It's like, skeletons are what they are. Bad.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I do not believe in giving these guys light armor at 4 points a model. I think that is throwing good money after bad. I like that. Like a 6-up save is fine. It's fine. Okay. This unit you generally will give a full complement to, like a standard bearer, a champion musician. It can matter.
Yeah.
I do give them.
So, how big of a block are you going? If you have a block of skeletal warriors, like, are you running like 60 skeletons?
No, no, no. I run them in 20s, honestly, for what they're there for. They're there to be able to blunt other charges, and like in general, the number of attacks in this game, 20 will like survive, unless they get unless they get whacked by like a real hammer out of the enemy army. So just like try not to let that happen, I guess, right? But they'll be able to hit and still be standing even after their losses. Most things they do have horde, right? So there is a decent justification for taking 25 and just making it an even 100-point unit. Like, you don't need to give them spears. You don't need to give them light armor. Maybe you give them Nehekar and Phalanx so they don't have to give ground, because they can access that rule. So you take 25 of them. It's 110 points. Won't you lose points for the banner? Yeah, sure. Yeah, you'll give up points for the banner. I still think it's worth it. Just because you don't want to be losing with this unit's meant to take a hit, and it's gonna get beat in combat. So like, it's got horde, so it can claim a +3 rank bonus. If you've got a banner as well, and it's close order, it's sitting at it. Like, if you buy the 110-point units, 25 of them, right?
Yep.
Then you're starting with a base +5 combat resolution.
Right. Like, your neutral is +5. Yeah.
Yep. The I did nothing, I get 5. And that's not bad. Like, honestly. It means that in like a lot of cases, they won't really lose much, especially with their, because I mean they'll be 6 up, 6 up. Right? Yeah. Assuming no AP.
Yep.
And that's fine. Like, again, I've rolled more than 10 dice like one time in this thing. I mean, I cannot explain how fewer attacks you make in this game, right?
Because you're only getting your second rank with certain rules, or whatever,
basically
right?
never. Yes.
Yeah. Like, in certain circumstances.
Yeah, correct. And almost never when you're like being charged, basically. So it's really the fighting rank you're worried about. And the 5 of them pretty tight. Somebody brings some wide unit into you, a bunch of their fighting ranks only going to be pitching in one attack, even if they've got multiple, because they're just out of base to base contact, stuff like that. But they're there to take the hit and then set up for the counter charge from your Snake Riders or your Tomb Guard
or chariots.
Yeah, like, or your chariots, like all your heavy hitters, right? And at 110 points, they do that job pretty darn well. They're fine. So yeah, cheap, effective. Skeleton archers and skeleton skirmishers. I love both of these. I think they're both fantastic. The archers, are the only, again, never ever would I give archers light armor. That is insane. It's like completely lunatic. Travis, our spears just, honestly, I don't think the spears are worth it in even on your normal skeletons. They're not there to fight.
I mean, your weapon skill too, fighting that extra rank's not gonna pull it.
I mean, you're still generally gonna hit on 4s against like most stuff in the game, but who cares? Like, you're just not there to kill anything. Maybe not. Like, I just don't think it's worth another 25 points. It's not that like it's terrible if you did it. I wouldn't look at you and think you're crazy. I just don't think it's necessary. Yeah. So
now, if you took light armor on them,
I would think now you're crazy. Light armor on archers is the biggest. Like, that's no. We don't pay for that. Never. I do take the Master of Arrows, and that's the only one. Just because then you get one guy who hits automatically on a 4. Isn't that fun?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's fun.
It's fun.
And yeah, obviously they've got arrows. They are an open order unit, which is very valuable. I don't know if you looked at everything that open order can do, but it's quite interesting in what it allows. Yeah. So good. Like, it's good that
there's some collapsing movement stuff that can happen.
Yep. I mean, they're never going to charge, but it gives you things like you can charge over terrain and not be disrupted and stuff like that.
Yep.
Skeleton skirmishers, I take them at 5 points apiece because I give them all war bows.
Can I ask a question on archers?
Yeah, go for it.
So you're only, unless you're on a hill, you're only rank, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So are you taking a block of 20 of these and in a line of 10?
No.
Like 10 and 10? Or how are you like
units of 10
ranking?
at the way I take them is units of 10, it's 55 point units because it's the base unit plus the champ.
And how are you lining them up just long-wise? Like 10
if I have a hill, then I'll put them on the hill in a 2x5, right? A couple different scattered around ranks of those. Because remember, if you're on a hill, like if this is the hill,
over. Yeah.
If this is the hill, right? Like this unit that's back here can see over this unit that's
over this unit. Yes. So you could do like 2 rows on a hill, one lower than the other, and then both are firing in 2 ranks. Yeah.
Yep. So you don't even need like that big of a hill.
Yep. So, but if you're on flat ground, are you doing by 10? How
10
are
wide.
you?
Just 10 wide.
10 wide. Yeah.
Yeah. If anything hits them, they die instantly. So who cares?
Sure.
So like they're fine. I've every time I go to war, I have a couple of these units. I just think they're cheap as chips, and they scatter wounds around. That's what they do. I just think they're highly valuable because you're talking about a 24-inch range with the warbow.
Yep.
You're just always on 5s. Like it's 10 dice, 9 on 5, 1 on a 4. Let's go. Usually it ends up being like,
1 or 2
5s and 5s or 5s and 4s or something like that, depending on what you're shooting at. So.
Yeah, 1 or 2 wins.
Yep. Yeah, and that can be like super valuable when you're dealing with sort of monsters that are out in the middle of the field. It can often be super worth it to just pitch at them because you're still on 5s and 5s. Often their toughness won't be high enough that you're still not you're needing. Generally you won't go to 6s against plenty of monsters.
Well, and warbows are actually running on your strength. They're not running on like the bow strength.
I mean, your strength 3, but sure.
3, yeah.
It's just about
there's.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say there's in none of your lore increase the unit strength.
No, correct. You can minus their toughness.
Yeah.
Which is great. Again, that spell I talked about in your signature lore that's -1 strength and -1 toughness, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, like you get that on somebody, put some shots into them, shots. I mean, it's just about like, it's just about hitting the sort of hitting the getting enough fire out there. Played a game and there was like a Gorgon wandering around in the middle of the field that was threatening, and so just like everything in the army just turned and shot at him, and we just managed to sneak enough wounds through to fell him. Right? It's just like mass weight of dice him down. That's what I was trying to look for. Right.
And you probably had bows on chariots and a bunch of other just random BS shots, right?
Random skirmishers, skeletal archers, the casket opens up at him, all that kind of stuff, right? It's just you just go hard in the paint. But honestly, my favorite new unit in the world is skeleton skirmishers. So you asked about these guys at the beginning. So these guys are, 5 to 20, right? In number. You can't take a huge unit. But we finally have our skanking skirmishing skeletons. They're just skanking all over the place. Just skanking around. And finally, we can meet the skanking skirmishing skinks on the field of skirmishing and skanking. So, these guys I generally take with the kit at 5 points a model. I don't ever take them as ambushers. I just take them with warbows. It's fine.
Sure.
They're move 5. I know that sounds silly, but they're move 5. Like they get 1 more inch.
That's better. Cool. That's better than normal archers. Let's go.
Yeah. IDUF is a big unit of archers with poison attacks worth it. Yeah, there is a way to put an item on one of your heroes that if they join that unit, they can give them poison attacks. Is it worth it? Depending. Your warbow has volley fire. So, like, if you're on a hill, you'd fire with the first 2 ranks and then half of every rank rounding up after that, right? So, I mean, it will radically change the efficacy of the unit. The trick is it will also radically change the enemy's threat assessment of the units.
Yeah.
And make it so there's something that gets targeted pretty hard, pretty fast, if with any of their range things. Like, the normal units of 10 archers basically don't get targeted because what lunatic would waste resources on that unit? Okay? It's just
Yeah.
not worth it. The second you
Yep.
plop down 30 archers that are putting out, or something like that, right? That's
Yeah.
putting out, on the magnitude of like 20 to 20. Trying to think of how you'd rank them up, but it's like 8, 16, 20, 24. Yeah, 24 shots. I think that's right. Anyways, with poison attacks, they're going to be like, well, that needs to be targeted, and something's going to go attack that thing real fast. So,
Right.
there's like, you want, with Tomb Kings, you really want like disseminated threats.
Yeah,
Like,
you want to control you want to control where their attacks are going, or make them functionally throw good money after bad.
correct.
They're having to throw like really efficient things at your trash.
Yes, exactly. Where there's just like, there's no good, never made, like, the thing that one of the ways you win with Tomb Kings is just by never giving them enough points to win, because they're always having to deal with garbage, right? And the only time your actual units that are of value get in the fight is when you've tilted it so far in your favor that you're going to just win. You're throwing like 55-point archer units at them and 20-point or 25-point skirmishing, skanking skeletons in their way. Just ridiculous nonsense that they have to like get through to get to any of your actual meat.
And then at that point, you're actually setting yourself up for the fights that you're going to win.
Right. Now, to your question earlier with Overrun, yes, this can be a problem. I walked straight into the exact situation you described in my first game, where I used them and didn't set them up correctly, and then had somebody just chop those down and then overrun right into the unit behind them. But that being said, they're great escorts for characters, because they're just regular infantry, and they're cheap as chips, because they can be in very small units. You can just take like 5 of them, 6 of them, 7 of them, something like that, so you easily keep lookouts around. And they are just like more random shots. Okay. I would also point out that they have Vanguard, so they can jump out pre-game.
And what does chariot runners do?
So they can be around your chariots. You're like in a cloud. Your chariots can see through them, move through them, like just move directly over top of them. And even if your chariot comes to rest on top of them, they just nudge out of the way. And they count the chariots as part of their unit. So you can have them as a cloud around to like protect their flanks.
Can I ask a silly question?
Sure.
Why would you ever take skeleton archers over skirmishers? Like, if you're not going to do blocks larger than 20. And the reason why I bring this up is, well, I guess it's a core question, right? Because the reason why I bring this up is that to have them with their war bows is the same point cost, but you get more movement with only 1 less leadership. Everything else is the same. And you get more alternative rules like Vanguard, Chariot Runners, and Skirmish.
The regular skeleton archers can be detachments, which can be quite valuable onto your normal units. So, like,
that's fair.
Yeah. So, like, it ends up being kind of the same, is my honest answer.
Yeah, that's fair.
You're taking both of these as shooters, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Cool. Ushabti, hey, what's up there? What's up, baby? How you doing? Tristan, are you still in the chat? Tristan, respond if you're still in the chat. I want to know how many Ushabti you have, Tristan. I need to know. Inquiring minds want to know. All right.
What are you at, Vince? Are you at like 40?
I'm not going to say right now. We'll wait until I want to see what he says. Okay. All right. Shabti, move 5, weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 3, strength and toughness 4, 3 wounds each, 2 initiative, 3 attacks, leadership 8. 49 big points apiece for this monstrous infantry on a 40 by 40 mil base. Hand weapons, ritual blades, and heavy armor. You can also choose to swap them out for great bows, which is, not the worst choice. They are hitting. They do have arrows of Asaph, so they're hitting on 4s because they are ballistic skill 3. Okay. But their ritual blades are like straight crack-a-lacka with that. I mean, they're great blades, right? So it's like you're getting the strength plus 2. But at AP 3, woo! AP3 makes things cease to be, baby. That's the lesson here.
You know who else has those? White Lions.
Sure, yes, I understand. I understand. You know what White Lions don't have? 3 wounds each.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
The Ushabti alone are interesting because I'm not sure they're worth it, is my legitimate answer. Okay? Like, I like Ushabti a lot. A lot. Tomb King Tristan says he
has 9.
Wait, no, that's a lie. 9 was just about... Okay, got it. He's just about to sleep. All right, he has 9. Okay. You got to pump them numbers up, Tristan. Those are rookie numbers. I'm not going to say how many I have now because that would just make you feel bad. All right, so the key with Strike Last is that Strike Last sets your initiative to 1. Yeah?
Yep.
They're already initiative 2, so it's not changing that much. But it can still be modified. Unlike Stomp and Impact hits, which always get set and aren't modified, like Impact hits are always on initiative 10 and Stomps are always on initiative 1 and they don't get modified.
Yep.
This does. And so, like, having things like My Will Be Done, or which he really can't give to the Ushabti, but right. The point is with other great weapon troops, having things like the spell that I talked about, and other initiative penalties. Having the Necrotect for plus D3, the Arch Necrotect for plus D3 initiative, because he can certainly whip these bad boys into shape. Like he's Ushabti's best friend. Okay. Yep. It's okay, Tristan. We'll forgive you. Now, honestly, my only problem with Ushabti is that venerable Ushabti exist. Like, venerable Ushabti, again, out of the Expandopedia, are 7 points more per model, Tom. Okay?
Okay.
So they're 56 points base instead of 49.
Yeah.
Not
so they're approximately a 15% point increase.
Sure. Yes. Now, same thing. Hand weapons, ritual blades, heavy armor. Still get the ancient for 7 points. Nothing changes there. Okay. But they can't take the bows. They have the exact same special rules.
They're melee. They're melee only. Yep.
They're melee only. Still Indomitable Khopesh. The difference is what they add is, first of all, the Ushabti, Venerable Ushabti, add magic resistance 2, which is really good. Like magic
you're gonna have a
2.
super heavy melee unit like that. Yep.
People will hurl spells at this unit.
Yep.
Like absolutely, people like you take 6 Venerable or 6 Ushabti. People will hurl spells at them. Like, it will happen. Having magic resistance 2 is a huge deal.
Yeah.
The other thing that they get is they go to weapon skill 5 from 4, and they go to strength 5 from 4. Okay? So those are 2 pretty big changes.
Yeah.
Like, it means that if you don't want to, they have hand weapons. They can just choose to use their hand weapons, right? So if, like, the difference between initiative 5 and 4 is going to be meaningful, but strength 5, if you're fighting a toughness 3 unit, the difference between, like, strength 7 and strength 5 against a toughness 3 unit is irrelevant, right? So depending on what the AP you're dealing with is there. They're still AP 1 as opposed to AP 3 because of the Khopesh rule, right?
Yep.
So
but
I like
the
versatility.
You need that penetration. Yeah, if you don't need that penetration, then you can jump up on your initiative.
Right. So I really like Venerable Ushabti. I'm here for those guys hardcore. And they're worth putting... I run a unit of 6 of them and put an Arch Necrotect basically like behind them. He was running around with a unit of skanking, skirmishing skeletons. Who can keep up with this unit. Move 5, it's move 5. Sure. Like, everybody wins, right? And, man, that was a great unit. I enjoyed that unit a lot. So yeah, there you go. So I stand the Venerable Shop T. I'm neutral. I'm a 5 or 6 on the regular Shop T. But it doesn't matter because like modeling, they're the same model. So.
Yep.
Necropolis Knights. Tom. When these guys come into play, you need to just have Don't Fear the Reaper queued up, because you are about to collect some souls. Okay, that's what's happening here. These dudes do not mess around. These things are all the best combination of two, as they always were. I love these things. I love these things. They're incredible.
Wonderful models.
Wonderful models. Some of my favorite ever. I know some people are like, it's so dumb just having the dude standing on top. Shut up.
Nope.
You shut your face. You shut your dirty face. They're amazing.
So I've unpacked my dwarves fully. Mm-hmm. And now the next is going to be to walk through my Tomb Kings and to see where my numbers are. Sure. Because I haven't, that's a box I haven't cracked yet. And I think it's going to be somewhere between my high elves and my dwarves. So I'm excited. I know I got at least 6 of these guys in the.
Yeah. This is another unit, as you know, Tom, that I have an egregious number of. And
yes. Are you at 18 for these guys?
Something like that. That sounds about right. It's a lot. And an unreasonable number is basically what I've tried to aim for with all of my Tomb Kings units. Yes. I love these guys. Cavalry spears, light armor, shields. They do have armored hide 1 for that extra pip of armor, so that's great. Not that it matters. If you're playing these guys right, nothing should ever crack back at them. They should be killing any. They are a unit that can legitimately kill most things they hit. Not the whole unit, potentially.
Are you running them in 3s?
Yeah, just 3s. Don't even more than that. Again, they're not going to kill a whole unit of 25 dudes. That's just not how the world works. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
But they should, most of the time, eliminate the fighting rank of most things they go into. Right? Mm-hmm. So nobody's actually striking back.
Yeah.
First of all, they're weapon skill 4 base, which is great. So that's fantastic. They can take a 50-point standard. Say something like if you want the +1 weapon skill standard for that was so your weapon skill 5. Now you're really that's great stuff. Because suddenly you're rocking and rolling 3s basically all the time against most stuff, which is great. The -1 initiative standard can do a lot to make sure that these guys are initiative 3 base instead of 2. So they can actually get up to 6 on the charge, which is really nice. Mm-hmm. They can take the Razor standard, not a bad investment for them. Gives them Armor Bane 2, so any 6s to wound are AP 2, which is fun. Not hugely impactful since you're already AP 1 down the line, but it's okay. I like the Rampaging banner on them a lot. Gives them charge reroll. This unit has Swift Stride. Real good. Okay. Or it's an oldie but a goodie, Tom. You remember it. Our old friend, Tom, the War Banner. These guys don't have ranks. Giving them an extra +1 combat res, often a perfectly valid investment for 25 points. These dudes rule. You always take the full clutch. So basically the 3 dudes are just your 3 command models, right? A champ, a musician, and a standard bearer. I never give the captain the great weapon. I think that's completely unnecessary. You don't want him like that. He doesn't need to be down at initiative 1. His spear is going to do fine. His cavalry spear will do fine.
Yeah.
Because again, they'll go to strength 5 on the charge, right?
Yep.
So perfectly good.
5 or 6 attacks per model. Poisoned attacks on the snake. Yes, please.
Exactly. The guys on top have cleaving blow. So remember, a 6 to wound ignores armor and regeneration, which is awesome. That's for the guys on top. They are close order, so they have the built-in extra +1. They have impact hits. So at initiative 10, you're making 3 strength 5 hits on the unit. Mm-hmm. As you mentioned, yes, the serpents are making basically 9 poisoned attacks, which is fantastic. And then, yeah, the unit has Swift Stride, so it's just very fast with a base move of 7. This is great.
So are you running 2 packs of 3 of these, or are you running more?
I like 2 packs of 3. You don't need to. There's plenty of other things you can do, but I wouldn't leave home without a 3-pack. I love them.
Yeah.
I think now you have to be a little careful with them. They have a wide flank because of that big long base they're on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you want to watch that. Other highly mobile units, if they get around on the side of you. It should be noted, these guys, by the way, do come in 2s now, Tom. Like, you can just take 2 of them. I would never do it, but it is a thing. Like, you can just take 2. So
interesting.
I always take them in 3s, but if you're tight on points, you can just take a 2-pack and make them sort of a flanking unit, and it's okay. So yeah, there you go. They rule. They freaking rule. Chariots. Chariots are some of the bread and butter. I like them on their own. I like them as joining with a Tomb King on Chariot or Tomb Prince on Chariot or something. Their unit size is 1+, which is very funny. It's a very funny unit size. In general, these guys are good. They're like 43 points, but it's a high wound unit. It's a very mobile unit. Again, your dudes are all rocking cavalry spears. They can actually do some damage on the charge. You do, because they get D3 impact hits at strength 4, the strength of the chariot, right?
Yep.
They are open order, which you have to watch out for because they won't get that extra combat bonus. But they're open order, which has other benefits as far as their mobility and being able to reform and remove and stuff like that. So it's actually they're quite mobile. They have reserve move built in, Tom. So these guys at the end of the shooting phase get to move their move again, right? So like they could move up 8, shoot, because they've all got war bows, okay, right? And then pull back 4. Like throw it in reverse, right?
Yeah.
So depending on what's going on, they can actually be pretty cagey, right? Again, they still have the arrows.
So how are you running your chariots?
Either in a pack of 6 or
like 3x3.
No, just 3x3. Yeah, sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
3x3.
Or like 3x2. So, sorry, 3x2. 3.
Yeah, no. 3. Yeah, 3x2.
3. Yes, 3x2.
3 wide, 2 deep. Yes, yep. Correct. Or just 5 of them around the king, where he's in the center. And again, they've got Swift Stride. Like, you hit somebody, if you manage to break them, to get them to run, that one of the reasons I really like that. I told you about that item that makes your Tomb King count like double his unit strength, right? Yeah. So one of the reasons I like that is because each chariot has a unit strength of 3, right? And so in that unit with him, if he has that item on, you've basically got 21 unit strength. Okay?
Yep.
And so if that unit manages to hit and then get somebody down to the appropriate point because it's a fear-causing unit, if you overwhelm their unit strength, you can turn their fallback in good order into a flee. Okay? And so that's a pretty potent effect, and oftentimes those few extra points can matter in getting people to break, right? Because when your unit strength is that much higher, you will kind of because you're fear causing and stuff, you will just break them. So that's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're very mobile. They're good. I like them. I like them a lot. Yeah. I'm trying to find the exact rules because to remember exactly how it works, like what the break point is there for it. There you go. If the winning side significantly outnumbers the user side, it will overwhelm the loser. If the unit strength of the winning side is more than twice that of the losing side, any losing unit that rolled this result when making its break test will break instead. So there you go. That's where I like that. Doesn't specifically have to do with fear, but fear and a big unit strength also matters in other ways. Okay, cool. The War Sphinx, Tom. You remember the War Sphinx?
So, are you just skipping right over the dragon?
Yeah, I did. I blew past him. I've blown past multiple units, Tom.
I know you have. Are you not going to weigh in on the dragon?
He's fine. He's very expensive. That's my problem.
He is very expensive. Yeah.
Like, okay, I'll give you I was going to do a brief rundown of everything at the end, but here's my brief rundown of the dragon. He's too expensive. That's it. So, like,
okay.
I would never put the caster on top of him. I think that is insane. But
that is a cannonball magnet.
Well, sure, yes, 100%. But like, like characters should be in units where they can't get cannonballed, where somebody else can be like, out of the way, sir. You know that's very important. But yeah, I just think the dragon's too expensive. I'll probably build him and put him together at some point. And I'll modify him so he's not an ugly as sin model with that dumb head. The rest of the model's fine. His just head is bad.
Yeah, which I mean, there's enough heads that you could swap out. That should be fine.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people have suggested using the undead dragon head.
Yeah, sure.
I actually would suggest, if you're willing to do a little bit more conversion work, the black dragon head from like the Black Dragon, like Order Serpentis in AOS.
Yep.
Like that could be a really interesting like desiccated flesh, because it's like it also has the open maw, but it's like it's disproportionate like the rest of this dragon. Like I think that's sure. What works for me about the alligator head is that it feels like the proportions are all super weird.
That Archeon right there has 3 of those heads on him.
Is it really 3 of those? Nice. Mm-hmm. I knew that you had. I didn't realize it was all. Yeah.
That Archeon has three dragon heads.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful head.
I have never built Archeon with those dumb actual heads he comes with. Neither of my Archeons. I have 2 Archeons, and neither of them have the normal heads on them. One is a triple-headed dragon, and one is the Mutalith Vortex Beast Chaos Maw.
I have one partially built, and he also is not going to have those heads. Like, luckily, the person I got it from stopped before they glued those heads on, and for that, I'm thankful.
Nice. Tomb King Tristan says the dragon head in person is pretty dang sick, to be honest. Tristan, you're in the tank, buddy. I don't trust you. That's what it comes down to. Cannons use line of sight to the bounce point and stop on heavy stuff. No, so not as bad as before. Yes, both of those things are true, Donnie. Cannons are still pretty bad. They're still pretty terrifying, is my honest answer.
Yes, you're not going to put the priest on here. Could you imagine a world where you ever put the Tomb King on?
On the dragon? Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Be a fun thing to play with. It'd be a pretty scary wrecking ball. But again, I'm kind of like my general way I play Tomb Kings is to sort of like spread a bunch of power out, lots of hitters, lots of things to worry about.
Yep. The mobility. If you're going to do that, you're going to put them in a chariot in a unit.
Yeah, and so
which I get.
That's gathering a lot of power into one focal point the enemy can focus on, and then I roll up against your dwarf army where you've taken 3 cannons per 1,000 points. By the way, we're playing 1999, just so we're clear. And you know, like all of a sudden, my dude eats 6 cannonballs to the face, and it's just like, well, okay, cool, he's dead.
Yeah, I was looking at it, and
you ain't gonna misfire that many times.
I was like, I have so many siege on my dwarves. Like I have 2 to 3 of every single different type of siege for my dwarves. So
yeah. The War Sphinx is interesting because he's he's
You're
fine.
saying as a mount or just in general?
In general. Both as a mount and as this. It's generally worth it, honestly, to give him the 2 extra crew for 10 points. Like, what a weird choice that you don't have to give him the crew. But like, if you're in for a penny, be in for a pound on this thing.
You're saying to have four crew instead
Yeah.
of 2?
Yeah, they're all like Tomb Guard crew. So they're pretty decent. They have cavalry spears. It's a bunch of strength 5 attacks if this thing charges. It's a move 6, so it's not a super slow thing. Now it itself is slow. It's initiative 1.
It would move it to four Tomb Guard attacks instead of 2.
Yeah, correct.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know if I honestly think the Fiery Roar is worth it. It's okay. I've always been kind of sketchy on breath templates because you got to get like so close to use them, and like the nature of the thing is,
and you can't use it in combat, right?
Correct. So,
yeah,
I'm not sure that's worth the 20 points. I would take the sting, because sure, why not? Like you get 1 strike first attack that's like at strength 5 for poison attack. Like sure, wham, kill a guy, gotcha. Okay, it's funny. But obviously,
one less swordmaster coming in.
Yes. You've got these dudes still have short bows, not war bows, but they do have short bows. They can still, again, it can be a unit that shoots, which is fun. They still have the arrows. They are ballistic skill 3, so they are hitting on 4s, which is cool. It's just more shots. Again, it's just about like building up little bits of shots from everybody to start weakening things down. The thing is Indomitable 2, which is really nice. And it is a behemoth, so it will stop a cannonball. If a cannonball hits it, it will stop it from going on, which can be interesting as a sort of tactic to have this thing like Tokyo drifted sideways in front of anything you really want to protect from your cannon. So just like the cannonball can't plow through this thing.
Can you talk about... Go ahead.
And it causes terror, which is valuable in its own right.
Could you talk about the significance of it as a chariot mount rather than a monster when it's mounted?
Sure. So when your guy gets on top of this thing, right, and basically treats it as a chariot mount, it means you're
+5 wounds or
wounds,
+4.
correct? Yeah, +5 wounds. So it means your dude has he has a lot of wounds all of a sudden. That is true. Now, he is also, because he's a large target, he's able to be seen very easily and stuff like that. So he can be targeted by a lot more things. So this is my problem. Like, I'd rather have the 7 wounds and be basically untargetable rather than have 10 wounds and have every, artillery piece on the battlefield be able to train at me.
Yeah.
Now,
throw random dice at you. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Now, that being said, the points cost on it is not unreasonable as a mount. Okay. This thing as a mount for your guy, I'm going to flip to it here real quick. One moment.
Yep.
Hold, please. There we go. The, when you're taking it as a mount, it's an expensive amount of points, right? Because again, you're paying the freaking 175 points for this thing to be under a 160 point character. It's a lot, but it does make for a unit that's quite dangerous as far as if people don't answer it, it will go in and actually hit decently hard.
And it keeps its Tomb Guard crew as well.
Yeah, correct. You still got the 2 dudes. Yes.
Yep.
So, it's good as a mount. It's just really expensive. That's my issue.
Yeah, I just wonder, and can you upgrade it as a mount with the normal upgrade options?
Yeah, as far as I know, I don't think there's anything that restricts that from happening. Travis, you had mentioned not being able to take the extra 2, but I don't think there's anything that would stop that from happening. Unless I'm missing something, which is entirely possible because there's a lot of rules, but I don't think anything stops it from happening. I think you can still have the other crew. Certainly you can still take the sting and the breath. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it's my problem with it is, I have multiple Tomb Kings
Yeah.
on War Sphinxes converted.
Yep.
My issue is it's just a lot of points.
That is certainly true.
Yeah. So, I suppose it depends on what you want to do. Now, I mean, given this thing is toughness 6, so
Yep.
it's pretty good. It's hard, but I mean, wounds chip. Weight of dice can happen.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right, let's talk about the Casket of Souls.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, baby. 135 points for a war machine with no base because it's just the thing. It's just the thing with 2 dudes and the guy. They have weapons. It doesn't matter. I mean, like if I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. That's not really true. The Casket Guardians are like an actual okay threat against some dumb little chaff unit that tries to come up and kill it. Okay. Like they can't just send in like a War Eagle and expect to take this thing out.
Why does the Casket Guardian still have a movement if the unit can't move?
For completion's sake, I don't know. Yes, it cannot move. When it's been set up, that's what it is.
It cannot move, right?
Correct.
It's like the anvil. Yeah.
Yep. But like these dudes do make like 4 attacks with great weapons. Okay. So, they will if somebody sends just like some dumb eagle or 5 little, stupid light cav at it, like mounted yeoman or something, they stand a very high chance of just getting chopped down. So, it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
But at any rate, that's not why you're doing it, why you're taking it. Like, in your perfect world, you want to kind of have this thing on a hill so it can draw a lot of line of sight behind your line within 12 inches of your priests, right? And that's kind of your perfect world.
It becomes a locus for them.
Yeah, because it's giving them another +1 to cast, right? And both for them and for anybody with a bound spell.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's just a great bonus on its own. But specifically, let's get over here. Obviously, when it dies, things just go wild. Like, you don't want to be near this thing when it dies. It does do splody damage. Like, it's on a 4-up, they take D6 strength 3 hits with no armor regeneration saves permitted. So, a pretty big explosion. But importantly, this thing can alternate between the Light of Death and the Light of Protection, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
And they are both good. They're both really good. The Light of Death is a magic missile, so it's obviously going to go off in the shooting phase. The Light of Protection is an enchantment, so it goes off in the command phase. And about how big is the Casket of Souls?
It fires both of them, right?
Like that big. It's so small. Like, this is a Casket of Souls.
It's a little bit bigger than that. It's probably 2.5 inches deep by about 3 inches wide.
It's so small. It's like ridiculously small.
Yeah.
For what it is.
It's about it would functionally fit on like a base of about that size.
Sure. Yeah, they should have just given it a square base. I agree with Kieran, who says, like, why didn't they actually give this a base? Like, it should have just been given, like, put it on the 60 by something. Like, it would fit on one of those, right? So,
well, I mean, again, the anvil doesn't have a base, but it's because it's meant to represent like a permanent fixture on the battlefield.
I understand.
Right, like once it's down, it's down. And so
I get it. I would just rather it had a clean base so you could see like frontage and stuff like that.
I hear that. Like, what I appreciate is that it to me, it actually creates a distinction for those things that are movable and not, if the things that aren't movable don't have bases.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay, so it's bound spells with a power level of 3, which is good. It's a good power level.
Mm-hmm.
And Light of Death, enemy makes a leadership test. If it's passed, it suffers D3 strength 3 hits with an AP of -1, so still decent. And if it's failed, D6 plus 3, strength 6 hits with multiple wounds 2 and no armor or regeneration saves permitted. Woo! Get ready, baby. You about to get wrecked, son. Like, boy, oh boy. That rules. The one good thing, Tom, about taking necromancy as a lore is that
Sure.
there is a spell in there that's just like straight neg 2 leadership. Okay.
Sure.
Very powerful.
Sure.
Very, very, very powerful.
Well, we
so,
call that
like,
the targeting laser.
Yeah, sure. Like, you know, I mean, because you can get that neg 2 leadership is a hex, so it's happening in the command phase. You can drop it on a unit, and then it comes to the shooting phase, and you're like, oh, unleash the souls, baby. And it just, you know, I mean, you drop somebody who's like leadership 7 to leadership 5, suddenly they're just wrecked, right? Even somebody who's normally under like their leaders leadership, where they're like on leadership 8 or 9, now they're 6 or 7. Nope. The chances of failure just skyrocketed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I do like that. I mean, that's obviously that Rex. It's a cool magic missile. And then the light of protection, which is also good. The thing you do if you have no good targets. It's an enchantment with a casting value of 8, and it remains in play while this balance spell is in play. This model and a friendly model within 18 inches have a 6-up ward, and the.
But don't they already have a 6-up?
They have regeneration.
Regeneration. So they can do both. Got it.
They can do both. You can take ward and regeneration. And ward, if it happens, will actually stop the wound from counting toward combat res.
The combat res. Yeah.
Yep. Just like armor or whatever. And then in addition, any enemy units suffer a -1 modifier to any rolls to hit made against this model and any friendly unit within 18 inches of this model. Straight up -1 to hit and a 6-up ward. Unbelievably good defensive stuff. So, you know, great early turn play. Not that you're not going to be in range for your magic missile, but obviously you can only have one of these going at a time. If you use the light of death, light of protection shuts off, and so on and so forth, right? So,
when does enchantment fire off? What phase?
Command phase. So right away for top of the round.
Got it. So you'll light of protection, and then if you want to fire off light of death, it shuts off your light of protection.
Correct. That's right. And so, you know, which is fine. Like, you just need to decide how you want to use it. Like, what's going to be the more valuable play for that thing in any given turn. So, yeah. Let's talk about some before we get to alternative army lists, we'll cover a few other units real quick here. We're going along, and I do want to wrap up soon. But just I'll breeze through some of the other units we didn't talk about, because it's just worth mentioning. Those are all like my favorite units I've used so far. Just a few other things. Skeleton horse archers are really good. They have reserve move and scouts and skirmishers and swift stride all built onto them. Like, that's a lot of movement related stuff. So they can be set up anywhere on the battlefield. They can move after they shoot. They're just like they're in a skirmish formation. They're incredibly versatile. The regular skeleton horsemen, again, they have horde, which is comical. I would never run them enough to get that. But they do have swift stride and vanguard. So again, a pretty good like pre-game push out move unit, and also decently cheap, both of them. Both of those are clocking in 11 points a model. You basically don't need to give them any kind of real upgrades. Tomb Swarms, like I said, are good if you're in the Mortuary Cult, which we'll talk about in a moment. Carrion, I'm still trying to get to the bottom of. They have like no save other than their regeneration. They're 27 points apiece. You can't take them in 2s. So it's an interesting 50.4 point unit because they have fly 10. They can actually be a pretty significant marching unit that can kind of get around behind the line in a way a lot of your other things can't, and go harass enemy war machines and stuff like that, which might give them enough value on their own to have like 2 or 3 of them. I'm not sure yet. I've played with them once and I wasn't impressed, so is what I'll say. I think
it may just be matchup dependent.
Right. I think Sepulchral Stalkers are bad. I just think they're bad. I think they basically don't hit anything. Yeah, I think their shooting attack sucks, and that's their only purpose in life. So that's what that comes down to. Get at me in the comments if you think I'm wrong. But I think it's bad. The Tomb Scorpion I actually like a lot. Okay. But not as an ambushing unit. I'm kind of all about it as just like a thing on the battlefield that's there. I at 70 points, it's like a move 7, weapon skill 4, strength and toughness 5, 3 wounds, initiative 3, 4 attacks unit. Pretty good stat line. And it has close order, so it does have its own little built-in +1 when it gets into combat. It's indomitable. It has magic resistance. It's got regeneration. It's got stomp attacks, and it's got swift stride, and it's got vanguard. So like it can pregame kind of move out, and then it could like move and then make a big charge, and it can kind of get to some pretty interesting places. And like it does some decent hits. It's got killing blow. It's got monster slayer. It's got AP2. Like, yeah, I don't know, man. I think that thing might be all right. The giant, the like bone giant, I don't think is worth it, I guess is basically what I would say. Maybe somebody will prove me wrong, but I just can't see taking him over some of the other points. And the Necrosphinx is exactly what you would expect it to be. Very scary, but very attention drawing. But it is a fast fly unit. Like it flies 9, so it can actually march around 18.
So let me we go back to the Tomb Scorpion real quick, just for a question.
Sure.
So with it, if I'm understanding the weapon profile correctly, one of its attacks can be your Envenom Sting as a strikes first, and then the other 3 are the decapitating claws.
Correct.
Okay,
that's right.
And then it's stomp attacks at the end of your or at initiative 1.
At initiative 1, which is at strength 5.
Yeah.
So like if I like this thing getting into a flank, it can't disrupt on its own. It's not strong enough. It doesn't have the unit strength to actually disrupt on its own. But I like it like getting in on a flank where it's going to receive relatively little pushback, and actually like it can really swing a combat pretty heavily in your favor. Just through combat res. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the Screaming Skull Catapult is like
-2 bravery. That's why our -2.
Well, it's -1.
Leadership.
Yeah, it's -1 leadership,
-1,
not
sorry.
2. Yes, which is really good, but it's a stone thrower, which is really bad. Okay.
And so tell you had mentioned this in the last show, but tell everybody why stone throwers are as bad as.
Stone throwers are bad because they just like basically they have a very actually low chance to hit. Like you have a 33% chance of rolling a hit on the dice. Okay.
Because you're saying because they're ballistic skill 2.
No, I'm saying because you roll the artillery dice. And the artillery dice has two hit rolls on it. Okay.
Yeah.
It has 2 faces that say hit and 4 that are go somewhere else, right? Drift in some direction.
Right.
And most of your rolls, like basically anything on the artillery dice other than a 2, okay, will more or like stone thrower templates now auto center onto a unit. You just pick a unit in range and it auto centers. You can't be fiddly with it or get.
Okay, so you can't actually so it just centers the unit is. You can't actually choose a spot in the unit.
Correct. It's center of the unit. That's where it starts.
Okay.
It's just place it on the center of the unit. Okay.
Yep.
And basically, for many units, if you roll anything other than a 2 on your drift, you're hitting basically nothing.
Well, unless it drifts into another unit, but yeah.
Sure. So its actual chance to hit is pretty hard, but to quantify, but it's not high, right?
Correct.
And it also, if it misfires, it's just really easy for it to just be like, well, that's worthless now. Like stone throwers just misfire so easily and so easily get taken out of shooting for this turn and the next. It's a lot of points to just be sitting there doing nothing. Now, I agree with Catharsis that said it's arguably the best stone thrower around, which isn't saying much. That is also somehow true, and I completely agree with it. That leadership bomb is really strong. especially with like something like the Casket of Souls. But okay. Yeah, that's kind of the other units we didn't talk about. I tried the Stone Thrower. I got exactly the result out of it I expected, which was nothing. It did nothing. I'd legitimately rather just take like another 20 archers. Like I do that, you do that math. There's just no world where 20 archers doesn't do more work than your one Stone Thrower. That's reality. Like I'll take the 5-up hit and know it. And, like, I'm not getting that much more range out of the dumb thing. But, like, at least these guys can move around. So, and don't have a minimum. And. Okay. Alternative army lists. Let's rock and roll. Let's bowl, let's rock and roll. These are your Armies of Infamy. These I just wanted to discuss real quick. As soon as there we go. Pen stopped working. All right. So, the Armies of Infamy. Ooh. Tomb Kings of Khemri, Nehekharan, Royal Host. So, you're... Basically, you get 1+ Tomb King or Tomb Prince, and then Mortuary Priests and Royal Heralds. And, so, like, you've got your guy, and you've got your priests. Okay? Notably, only Mortuary Priests, not High Priests. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joined late are Tomb Guard good? Yes. Short answer. I love them. I think they're fantastic. You have to use them carefully. They don't just go win every fight, right? There's plenty of units in the game that'll tangle with them. But, like, they are absolutely, for my money, one of the best, like, Counter-Strike units around. Put a Necrotect in them, fire off that hatred effect, win. Okay. Core, chariots. Have to have chariots, because that's your required thing here, because this is, you know, this is Settra's list. You get 0 to 1 unit of Tomb Guard or Tomb Guard chariots. Cool. Do love Tomb Guard chariots. They are really good. It takes everything I love about chariots and makes them even better. I think they're worth the points. And then also, of course, skeleton archers, infantry cohorts, and cavalry cohorts, which are just basically like the same things, but they have slightly more rules. But they're functionally, they're going to end up the same. And then your special choices are like Tomb Guard, Skirmishers, Horse Archers, Ushabti, Knights, Scorpions, War Sphinxes, and then you can have 0 to 2 Screaming Skull Catapults. This is meant to be the more mobile list. I don't like this list. I just don't like the Royal Host. You do get some special rules. We'll talk about those here. Within the General's command range, friendly models whose troop type is Chariot may reroll the dice when determining the number of impact hits they cause. It's cool. Basically, for 35 points, you can make your Tomb Prince or your Tomb King you play the Wizard games. They're also your Hierophant. Yep. And they only can take from Necromancy. And they get Arise. So, which is cool.
Not terrible.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's fine. They can put Skeleton Skirmishers in ambush, which I don't think is any value. I just really don't. Sure. Because you don't actually have... I mean, you have the regular Mortuary Priest who can still try to call them up, but I don't think it's very valuable. I don't know what I'm doing with those dinguses.
Yeah.
And then the Masterful Outriders, 0 to 1 units of Skeleton Horse Archers can have the Chariot Runner special rule. That's actually pretty cool. Sure, that's like their one rule they have that I really like. Yes. Because they're actually fast enough to keep up with the chariots. That's the problem with your skanking, skirmishing skeletons, is that they kind of will lose the chariots eventually, unless you move your chariots like kind of forward and back, right? These dudes can actually just keep pace, which is cool. And then Steadfast Discipline, when you have Volley Fire, you can use Volley Fire when you move, which is nice. Or while performing a stand and shoot, which is cool. Hey, did you, like I mentioned earlier, it's cool. We get to stand and shoot now, Tom. That's really fun. Can I just say that? I'm so happy that, like, Undead actually have a charge reaction now. That's cool.
You enjoy playing the game like everybody else plays it?
Yeah, that's neat. It's generally bad, but we can do it.
Sure.
So that's cool.
Sure.
So that's them. I just don't think it's worth it. I don't like the Royal Host. Also in this book is Settra himself. And Tom, I've got some bad news for you. Look, Settra the Imperishable, the Great King of Nehekara, the King of Kings, the Hawk of the Desert, the Master of the Four Winds, the Master of the Four Desert Winds. I don't think he's worth it. That's what it comes down to. I do not think he's worth it.
He's the same points cost as he was in AOS.
Yeah, sure. He's 445 points. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's a lot. Now, the dude has a bunch of special rules. Yep. He has a rise. He can use a rise in combat. He always accepts every challenge. He's always the general. Okay? He has a command range of 18 inches all the time. His impact hits have flaming and magical attacks. He can join Tomb Guard chariots as though he were a light chariot, even though he's a heavy chariot. His My Will Be Done affects everybody within 6 inches of him, not just the unit he's joined, which is cool.
So if you had a Tomb Guard chariot unit with him, that's like 1,000 points.
Mm-hmm. I just think he's so expensive, and this is a game of trading, and like if somebody picks him up, which isn't easy, admittedly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's not a pushover. But if he, he's a 4-up, 5-up. 4-up, 5-up, 5-up. Sorry, because he has a ward and regeneration.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's not a question of does he have like good rules. I mean, he's awesome. Like, obviously, right? He's a cool dude. I love Settra. Yes. It's just that, like, even at 4-up, 5-up, 5-up, he's just going to be hard-pressed to get his actual points back. It's such a huge investment in one unit. So,
I don't know. I may build him out and put a bunch of flanking him with some Tomb King chariot units.
Sure.
Looks like a lot of fun.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. It's just like
would you run him with 5 Tomb King chariot units, do you think?
No, he'd be in a unit of 4 probably. He can't get Lookout Sir from them either because they're light chariots.
1,
chariot.
3 behind.
Yeah.
Oof.
Like if they want to get at him, they can get at him.
Yep.
Because you don't have any other heavy chariots.
No.
Prince Apapos, Mr. Bugman, Bug Boy.
Yep.
He's fine. He's like a loner. He runs around on his own. He's a little expensive, but like he's okay. He's there to go behind the line and attack stuff.
He's a little scarab lord.
Yeah. I actually like Nakaf, which is like Settra's personal Royal Herald. I actually don't hate Nakaf. I think he's okay. He's got a cool magic item. His Flail of Conquered Kings is actually a pretty good weapon. And he's pretty good in a challenge, despite being like not a super great combat character because of that killing blow. Yeah. So there you go. That's my immediate thought on those dudes, on those other special dudes.
Cool.
So now let's talk about the mortuary cult. This is where I'm living, Tom. This is where I'm living. Okay. So, 1+ High Priest or Mortuary Priest, and then 0 to 1, Tomb Prince or Arch Necrotect per 1,000 points. So awesome. We can get at that Arch Necrotect action, which I love. Love those guys. I'm here for them. I don't honestly need a Tomb Prince in this army. Like, I really don't, which sounds crazy, but like, you can run this without. You don't need it. the high priest and mortuary priest can kind of they'll butter your bread, they'll butter your biscuits. Ushabti is a core choice. I'm here for it. Tomb Swarms is a core choice. I'm here for it because again, they're your like juice.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look, juice.
Yeah.
You know, okay, cool. Necroserpents, unmounted things is a core choice. Nope, that's a trap. Don't do that. Do not do that. And then all your normal skeleton people, so that's fine. Like, it's very easy for you to still get everything you want out of your core. And then you can have the Tomb Scorpion down there, which I like. Venerable Ushabti, which I like. And then you can get the Necro Colossus or the Necrosphinx as a special choice. You can get one of them, which is cool. I do think the Necrosphinx as a special choice is a very interesting option. And then obviously you still got the Casket of Souls hiding out in there as well.
As an aside, you don't get the Casket of Souls in the Royal Host.
Correct, because it's an army on the move.
Because it's an army on the move.
So there we go. Boom, and then your mortuary cult special rules. You have to include one Lich Priest to be its Hierophant, and they are the general, even if they're not the character with the highest leadership, which is interesting, and that's fine. If they use Arise, they increase the number of lost wounds the chosen unit recovers by 1, which is really good. I mean, it sounds so small, but it's amazing when you have multiple priests banging out Arise, right?
Yep.
The Sepulchral Animus, before you make a casting roll, this is the thing. You go, you drink somebody's milkshake, big cast bonus. And you choose. It's not roll a D3. It's you get to choose how much they lose. Yeah. Yep. Which is really nice. And then the Terrors Below. This actually makes me want... This is, I think, finally we got to a good ambusher. So your Tomb Scorpions or Necroserpents can have this rule for 2 points a model. When the unit with this special rule is placed on the battlefield as a result of the using from beneath the sands, so that the Lich Priest calling them up.
Priest one. Yep.
It may nominate a single enemy unit that is within 8 inches of it. Remember, they can come up 6 inches away. And whose troop type is regular infantry or heavy infantry. The nominated enemy unit must immediately make a number of initiative tests equal to the unit strength of this unit. For each test that's failed, a single model belonging to the nominated unit is removed from play as a casualty. So just slain outright.
Yeah. You get to choose which models go?
No, the enemy still pulls them off as normal. Yes, you're correct, Lucius. They do have a nice unit strength for triggering this. You're absolutely correct. So like that's the only reason you would take the 3 Necroserpents without the dudes on top is to get a unit strength of 9 triggering this.
Oof.
Like these guys popping up and then doing like that is a valid use of
9 initiative test.
Yeah. Which
and initiative tests are 2d6 roll under your initiative.
No, it's
That's what leadership.
Yeah. Is that what it is? I don't know what it is. I don't remember. It's good. I'm trying to remember, but I don't think it doesn't matter. I just want to shout out Average Joe, who literally made the joke I use every time I use Arise ever, which is I go, Arise chicken. Chicken, arise. No. Say slower, lose meaning. Arise chicken. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Average Joe, for making the end of my night. Yeah, there you go. 1d6 roll under your initiative. Thank you. Appreciate it.
1d6 roll.
I thought that's what it was. So, yeah, I mean, it's variable. Against stuff like elves, it's pretty worthless. But, against most armies, it's actually pretty valuable. Because, most things in the game are like initiative 3, initiative 4, that range. So.
Yep.
Yes. Okay, so that's it. That's the end. There we go. There's your Tomb Kings. Honestly, love it. I love this army. I think they did a great job designing it. Like, the rules are fun. It's a very fun army to play. It's a challenging army to play, but it's also great because you get to, like, ignore certain things. Yeah. And I just think it has a bunch of really cool rules that make it feel great. So... Yeah, I very much love it got rid, Tom, of a lot of the stuff that I hated back in the old world. Like, I'm not casting from scrolls anymore or whatever. You know, I have like just real wizards. I get to take from cool spell lores. I can stand and shoot. You know, there are various ways I have to actually move. I don't feel like I'm actually just like stuck in the muck and the mire. You know, much like playing a dwarf army now, Tom, my guess is you'll often set up your troops in marching column instead of in combat formation, right? That way you can like triple move in the first round if you need to. And then you know, you'll
reform.
Yeah. Because, you know, like, why not, right?
Yeah.
So just stuff like that feels good, is what I'd say. There's just like, obviously I don't have the March thing still, but I like the unit. I like the new additions. I love the additional troops that they added through these Armies of Infamy, like the Venerable Ushabti, the Tomb Guard Chariots, the Arch Necrotect. All of this stuff is just fantastic, and I'm here for it 1,000%. So all in all, I just like the way the army plays. It's a lot of fun, and my regular like Beasts of Chaos opponent is hates these guys. He's like, he hates all the rules I ignore. I told him I'll play Bretonians next time, so that way we were both playing with all the rules. Anyway, there you go. If you've got any questions about these guys we didn't answer, hey, why don't you drop those down in the comment. Thank you, chat, by the way. Lots of good interaction this show. Hope everybody enjoyed this. We will be doing some dalliances into the old world on the reg. Don't worry. Lots of armies to talk about, and I'm going to be playing plenty of old world games. I imagine the next one we do will probably be the other side of the
Bretonians.
Of the main box. Yeah, the Bretonians. So I imagine that's what we'll get into next. But, you know, watch out for that. Hey, if you liked this, look, everybody, these old world shows are really easy for people to come in and be like, I don't like it, and hit dislike. I should have said this earlier. I want to keep doing this content, so please, if you like the old world, if you're here for it, if you're here for us to mix in and sprinkle some of this content, please do hit like. It like really does help and helps like counteract some of the hate we get whenever we do this, just because there's some people who are like angry at GW for various and sundry reasons. But I'm excited about the game. I've been having great fun with it. So hit like, hit subscribe, all that kind of fun stuff. Next week will be a road show, unfortunately, with Tyler. So I don't know what we'll talk about yet. It probably won't be the it could be the Dawnbringers
No, you've
book.
already done. Yeah.
No, the Dawnbringers book 4.
Yeah,
We would technically be able to talk about it next week. It might be that. I don't know. I guess it depends. Like, story time is possible. I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. But stay tuned for next week. Hit like, hit subscribe. If you want to support the show, lots of ways you can do it. Merch down there. Amazon links down there. Use them. Pay no additional money, but help the show. Hey, pick up a book from Uncle Adam and I. You know, if you want some skirmishing, skanking skeletons or skinks of your own, we've got lots of great skirmish games for you down there. You can go check out and use some of your figs in. So go check those out. Or, of course, there's the Patreon, focused on hobby, review, and feedback and taking your next step. But as always, everybody, hey, listen, I thank you so much for watching this. I really appreciate it. Tom, thank you, sir, as always.
Of course.
We'll see you
can't
next
wait
Wednesday.
to do that again.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.